Sports Time. Bryant and Landon today. No Brett. He's out for the day, but he will join us a little bit later in the show when we do Friday football forecast at about 5:30. Welcome in on a Fight Song Friday, starting the show. I think Brett mentioned it on air. I know we talked about it off air, but he said we'd start with the SMU fight song, as SMU, their first year in the ACC, they will be competing for a conference championship tomorrow night, along with a lot of other teams in those conferences that go tonight and tomorrow. We'll talk a lot about that. We'll get picks for a lot of these games over the next couple of hours. Ton to get to over these next 3 hours. Not only championship weekend, though, for college football, also high school football championship, state championship weekend as well. Right now, I've actually got it up on my iPad. Mace playing for the 1A state championship against South Pittsburgh right now, 14-14 in the second quarter. I believe Melrose starts the day tomorrow morning with their state championship game, and then Houston High School will end the night tomorrow playing for state as well. So 3 Memphis area schools, all with opportunities to win state. Good luck to all of them. We'll be keeping an eye on them, and if Mace wins, we'll keep you updated. We'll keep you updated on that score, because I know a lot of people really excited about the high school talent and what they're doing this year, getting 3 teams to the state championship game. I mentioned a lot to talk about. We'll talk here in a couple of minutes about what happened or what is going to happen this weekend in these college conference championship games. 3 games tonight and then the rest of them tomorrow. But I do want to start off talking about Monday Night Football. Grizzlies also won last night. We'll talk a lot of Grizzlies later in this hour. We'll have a whole segment dedicated to the Grizzlies. So I don't want to talk much about the Grizzlies right now. I know John Morant got ejected last night in what was a really bad call, but we'll get to that a little bit later in this hour. I want to start off by talking about Thursday Night Football last night. Maybe the most anticipated game that we've had in certainly a couple weeks. I remember Bills and Chiefs was really a lot of excitement around that game, but a lot of excitement around this game as well last night on Prime Video. Landon, we've talked about it, Brett and I have all year, that the prime games this year have lived up to it. They have been
they've
really
upped the
good.
game tremendously from last year. I remember last year.
There were a couple snoozers on there last year.
Thursday Night Football was something that was just like, if you have nothing else to do, sure, tune into it.
Yeah.
But like this year, I don't know what they did. I'm willing to bet that the addition of Fitzmagic to the broadcast crew,
he brought something.
He did, because he brought magic on the football field. So he's got to bring it in the broadcast booth too. Well,
last night was a really fun game. Lions hosting the Packers. It's a back and forth game really all afternoon. You had a really good first half by Detroit where they score a touchdown in the first quarter at 7-0. Then they go out there, put up 10 more points in the second quarter. So they lead 17-7 at halftime. And then third quarter, it's all Packers. They go out there 14-7 in the third quarter and then really back and forth in that fourth quarter. And it ended up getting to Lions have the ball. It's 4th and maybe less than 1, and like 27, 30 seconds left on the clock. And it's, okay, what are you going to do? You can kick a field goal now and, give Jordan Love, like I said, 30, 45 seconds to work with. Or you can try to go for it and try to get that first down. And we know what Dan Campbell, what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He's going to go for it. And so when he threw the offense out there, I was kind of sitting there going, okay, well, maybe he's just getting a look and seeing if maybe they'll jump off sides or something, and then they'll get an automatic first down. But no, he runs the play, and it's a really, really good run. It was actually a play where Jared Goff
ends up tripping, almost gets
on.
downed before he even hands the ball off.
The left guard stepped on his foot, and so he turns around. He's got one knee down. Ball reached out, trying to hand it off, and they end up getting the first down, and that set up a field goal. Jake Bates, who's been really good this year,
very consistent for him,
felt like he was going to knock that down very easily, and so they were able to walk it off. A fun game. I mean, both those teams really, really good. Unfortunately for the Packers, that's their 4th loss of the season. Feels like they'll certainly be in the mix for a wild card, and I think Brett yesterday when we were talking about kind of said, like, yeah, this could be, a NFC championship game, and then kind of walked back and said, well, right now where the Packers are, if they met, it would probably be before the NFC championship game, which is a shame because I do like both of these teams. I think they're both really, really talented. But I mean, that Lions team, they're incredible, and they've played really well all season long. And Dan Campbell, and they were talking about this on the air last night. Brett brought it up, but for Dan Campbell, the guy that comes out in his introductory press conference and is just a football dude. He's not that guy that I remember we had that kind of phase where everyone was hiring analytical guys, and they were coming in there in their first press conference and they were saying, well, we got to throw the ball more, and this and that, and this is how we're going to change this, and the numbers say we got to do that. And then you got Dan Campbell out here that's like, we're gonna bite their kneecaps off, and it's just a little different. And a lot of people thought that it was going to be a mess, and I think Detroit history would tell you, well, it's probably going to be a mess.
And that was something that actually stood out to me about last night's game. I don't know if you caught pregame, but when Keegan-Michael Key came on and was talking about his Lions, and dude, after listening to that, I don't want to speak on behalf of all Lions fans, but it sounded like Keegan-Michael Key was speaking on behalf of Lions fans. I mean, he brought up some crazy names last night. He was talking about how he was a fan since Eric Hipple and Gary Danielson were under center.
Right.
And I went back and I looked at Detroit's record of that time. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Dude, Eric Hipple did not do well. I mean, there was not a season where he threw more touchdowns than he did interceptions. It was really, really rough. But to hear Keegan talk about he's been a fan of the Lions since that long, and I mean, you just look at their history, man, they have struggled. But then these past few years to look and see how they've grown, like something that Keegan had mentioned is that it seems like this entire Detroit team has bought into what Dan Campbell has been talking about.
Yeah.
He's like, like in that press conference of like, we're going to go down when we get up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. It's like, okay, well, this is not normal to any degree. A little strange. But then he was saying, like, this football team is going to take on the identity of the city of Detroit. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, even last night with Detroit just racked with injuries everywhere, for all those people to step up, to still be bought in, to still carry through and pull out that win, I think that speaks a lot to the culture that he has changed and he's shifted there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that's what worried me because their last game was one of the Thanksgiving games. So you have everybody in the country watching this one game, and it felt like every other play, injury.
Oh, they were dropping like flies.
Oh man, it was tough to watch.
I mean, it was like when you and I were playing high school football. First game of the season, hot summer, and then everybody's dropping with cramps because we don't want to listen to our coaches saying drink that pickle juice and all that
water
stuff.
up. No, I mean, and so I didn't really know what to expect tonight. Packers are a really good team. One thing that I love about this Detroit offense, and I think a lot of fantasy owners will yell at me for saying this because it feels like you go on Twitter after a Detroit Lions game and everybody has one of these two guys on their fantasy team and they're going, why are we splitting carries? Run the ball, run the ball. But David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, how they use those two guys, both of those guys would be number ones.
Oh, yeah.
In any offense in the country.
Well, right now they're being referred to as the duo of Sonic and Knuckles.
That's right.
Which is perfect. I mean, Gibbs' speed is unreal, and David Montgomery, I mean, his first touchdown of the night went in untouched. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing to see.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think I could think of 2, maybe 3 teams right now in the NFL where these two guys would not be starters. Certainly the Eagles, they would not be a starter. If everybody was healthy in San Francisco, they'd certainly not be starters there because Christian McCaffrey would by far be a starter. But, not many other teams that I'm looking there going, okay, well, I like their running back more than I like either of these guys in Detroit. And so the fact that you look at last night, David Montgomery is your leading rusher with 51 yards on 14 carries. But then Jahmyr Gibbs has 15 carries for 43 yards. So they, as a team, 34 rushes for 111 yards and 1 touchdown. So it's, when you would look, if you would look and go, okay, most teams you look, David Montgomery, 14 carries, 51 yards, just couldn't get anything going. Run game wasn't there. But they have two guys, like you mentioned, how they use them, Sonic and Knuckles. Both are accepting of this role. They love the role. It feels like you said, they take on this identity of the team, and they're completely bought in. Look, if me finishing the game with 14 carries and only 51 yards, or 15 carries and only 40 yards, like, I'm cool with that. If it helps our team win, I'm good with that. And so I love watching that. Jared Goff was really good last night, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And on the other side, the Packers played well too. You had
they did.
Jordan Love, 206 yards. He was 12 for 20, so pretty efficient through the air. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was only sacked once. Both these guys stayed pretty clean most of the night.
Yeah.
Jordan Love sacked once. Jared Goff sacked once. Christian Watson had a massive game, 114 yards on 4 receptions. He is so much fun to watch. He's a really, really good receiver.
Well, that was the other thing I noticed about the difference between these two teams is, Love has had his favorite target last night in Watson. It was clear as day. But then you look at the receiving stats for the entirety of the Lions team. Yeah. It's almost like he's trying to get the entire team involved throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, how about this? And you might have been getting this. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Every receiver, or I shouldn't even say receiver because you got tight ends, running backs in here.
Yeah.
Every guy that caught a pass last night, 6 or 5 or more receptions.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's one of those things where it's like, if you're a fantasy owner, you hate it because Goff is not targeting the one person that you love. But if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you're like, absolutely.
Yeah,
this is literally a team camaraderie playing in real life.
Exactly. Everyone's Amon-Ra St. Brown needs more
receptions.
Why does he only have 43
he needs more
yards?
receptions while you're sitting over here, and Tim Patrick has 43 yards and 2 TDs receiving. It's
They're
incredible.
a fun team. They're a really fun team to watch.
And I feel like last night, too, was just a win. Like, you didn't even have to be a fan of the Packers or the Lions. You didn't even have to be a fan of the Grizzlies or the Kings. We hope you're a fan of the Grizzlies. If you're listening in, we hope so. But I feel like last night was just a win for sports in general.
Yeah.
2 really great games, 2 really, really spectacular showings. It was just a fun night.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing is, I was sitting there last night when the Lions throw out their offense on 4th and 1, 40 seconds left, tied ball game. I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a fan of either of these teams.
Yep.
I had no money on this game.
We know Brett is. It's Brett's Lions.
It's Brett's Lions.
Brett's Lions are on the line.
That's why he's out today. It's because he's celebrating their victory last night. But, I'm just watching that game as a consumer, as a guy that loves football, and going, oh, man. they better get this, you know.
And that was super interesting too for them to catch Dan Campbell in the post-game interview and ask and be like, well, you went for it on 4th down early in the 3rd quarter and you failed. Like, what were your thoughts going into it in the 4th quarter? He was like, never doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I have full confidence in this team. I know what they're able to do, and it was a nail biter. You thought the trip on Jared Goff was going to be the end of it, but then for them to get that, the mentality of Dan Campbell saying, let's go out there, let's finish this game, seal it, close it out, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, 5 4th down attempts for the Lions. They were 4 for 5 on 4th down. So yeah, Dan Campbell.
They took some kneecaps.
Not scared to go for it on 4th down. Before we set up today's show and get to top and not top story, I do want to talk a little bit. We'll get picks and talk a lot more about these games through the rest of the show, but we're so slammed with guests today that we really won't have an opportunity to really kind of talk about these games in college football. Championship weekend, conference championship games going on. They start tonight, just in a couple of hours. Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State will play for the Conference USA Championship. UNLV Boise State on Fox at 7 o'clock for the Mountain West. And then 7 o'clock tonight, Tulane and Army on ABC. And then we've got the rest of the games tomorrow. This game tonight, UNLV Boise State, I think everybody will be tuned in for, because I know we've talked about a lot of these regular season games and kind of the idea of, well, this is the playoff game, because if I remember LSU Alabama, everyone's calling this is the first playoff
this is
game,
like contention game. This is an elimination game.
If whoever loses, they're pretty much out, and whoever wins, they're still in the running. But this really is the first playoff game, because whoever wins this game is in, and you feel like whoever loses is out. And so, Boise State, they'll be at home at their home stadium hosting the Mountain West Championship game. 4.5-point favorite right now. But UNLV has been really good this season.
They've been a stellar team all year.
They've been fantastic. Only 2 losses, one to Boise State earlier in the year at home, and then the other loss against Syracuse on, I think it was like a Friday night game. Really good game. Went to overtime. Syracuse ultimately won that game. But the first meeting between these two teams, good game. Boise State ended up winning 29-24. So hopefully we get another game like that. The line's 4.5. We'll make our picks a little bit later at 5:30 during our First National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast. But I'm excited. That will be the big game tonight. But also, curious to see what happens in the American Athletic Conference Championship later tonight on ABC. Tulane on the road against Army. And then obviously tomorrow, everyone will be watching SEC championship game, Big Ten championship game, and most certainly the ACC championship game, because that one is the big one.
Yeah.
SMU wins, all good, they're in. But if Clemson wins, that's where things get interesting, because what do you do with SMU? Do you keep them in the 12 teams, or do you kick them out?
Me personally, that's their second loss of the year, and it's in a big-time game, ACC championship, yet like what you and Brett were talking about yesterday about it's definitely going to depend on the score. If SMU just gets destroyed, clearly they're not cut out for the big game competition. But if they keep it close and hopefully they win, I am rooting for SMU. Let's go Mustangs. I mean, we played their fight song.
That's right. Yeah, we started. How
much clearer can we be?
I mean, yeah.
But I feel like even with 2 loss, that they still belong in over some 3 loss teams that are trying to make their case and try to fight in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's an interesting conversation because Tuesday, before we had the college football playoff rankings revealed, we were all sitting in here and saying Miami should be in. Miami should be the last team in the field, and all those 3-loss SEC teams should be left out. But then watching that and hearing the explanation from Ward Manuel, I was kind of like, you know what? I understand why Alabama's in. I mean, he laid it out, very clear.
Well, especially over Miami. Yeah, I get
exactly.
that.
You look at what Miami's schedule is. You look at who they played, and I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but it's something like, against top 25 opponents, and
I think they were like against teams with winning records that they ended up with 4-2, while Alabama was 6-1 against them. But I mean, you look at the year that Miami's had, and they're playing all these unranked teams, and almost every single game was a tight game. Yeah. Like, it was a close game. And it was almost similar to how kind of what Colorado was doing throughout the year, too. They were like, the games were close. It was a fight. There weren't really any blowouts. Now, of course, if you watched Colorado versus Oklahoma State, I mean, that was just, what was Oklahoma? Did Oklahoma State even show up to that game?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I totally understood, because if you're going to be ranked that high, if you're going to be regarded as that much of a powerhouse, and the best that you've got to show for it is all these tight games, blowing a 21-0 lead against Syracuse, I mean, it made sense to me.
Yeah, so, I mean, it made sense. And I think there is also an argument there for Alabama over SMU. I would like to see SMU make the playoffs.
As would I.
Even with a loss to Clemson. Certainly, again, if it's a 30-point loss or something crazy, I have no issue at all.
It makes sense at that point.
And I still think if they lose, I'll probably argue it. I'll probably say, they probably deserve to
get them in the 12th seed. Something like that.
Because I think my argument for it is more of, I understand Alabama's in a tougher conference. I understand Alabama has played tougher teams. But I don't care what it is. If the committee thinks that a team has shown they should be in the playoffs and their second loss comes in a conference championship game, you can knock them a spot or two for losing, but you cannot punish them for losing a conference championship game by dropping them all the way out of the college football playoff, in my opinion.
Well, and especially like you've been saying, it's like, what are we doing with conference championship games? Like, what's the purpose? Yeah. Because now you're in a situation where you have a lot of other teams in your conference that are locked in that are not playing in this weekend. Yeah. And it's like, well, what are we supposed to do?
And Rhett Lashley made that case in an interview earlier this week by saying, if we didn't play this weekend, I think he said if our team somehow caught COVID this week and we could not play the game, we would be in the playoffs because based on what they said, we would have no more data points to look at, and we would be in. But since we're playing in our conference championship game,
it's a huge risk.
We're gonna go out there and compete, and we're gonna hopefully bring back a conference title. But because we're doing that, we're gonna be penalized. So we'll see what happens. We'll talk a lot more about this. We'll get picks throughout the show as well. But let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Alan Bell from the AB3 and Driving the Line will join us. We'll talk some wagering with him, get a ton of picks. We'll start with the NFL with Alan, but we'll get to some of these conference championship games, get his thoughts on those as well. 3:45, we'll talk the Grizzlies, what they did last night, a win over Sacramento. It came down to the end. John Morant was not there at the end of the game. He was ejected earlier for complaining on a call that I think was really bad.
Really bad call.
We'll talk about that at 3:45 and what we saw from this Grizzlies team last night. 4 o'clock, Bruce Marshall from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BAMSports.net. He'll join us. We'll talk a lot of these conference championship games as well as some NFL picks. We might even get some basketball picks with him. NBA tonight, also some college basketball tonight, and tomorrow we'll get those picks from Bruce. 4:30, Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas in Fort Smith. He'll join us. We'll talk the Razorbacks and the SEC with him. We'll kind of recap this season for Arkansas football, get his thoughts on the SEC championship game, then talk some Arkansas basketball. 4:45, we'll get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Jason Munns, the CA Tiger basketball beat writer, will join us to talk some Tiger basketball. And he, as always, presented by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. A lot to get to with Jason. Tigers, last time we talked to him, Tigers were getting ready to head out to, well, I guess they were in San Francisco. That Friday we talked to him because we didn't talk to him last week. We weren't here last week. Tigers were in San Francisco getting ready to play the Dons. That was all the way before Maui, all the way before La Tech, so a lot to catch up on with Jason Munns. We'll do that at 5 o'clock. 5:30, time for our first National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast. 5:45, we'll wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together. Get over there, the Ultimate Game Room and Fall Sale. Complete the Ultimate Game Room with a new pool table, a shuffleboard, and an arcade game. Help them clear out their overstock of theater seating. It's all priced to move. It's also perfect fire pit weather, and at Family Leisure, all fire pits are 20 to 30% off. Don't forget about the spas, $1,500 off, up to $1,500 off. They're in-stock spas, and they're also ready for delivery. So head out to Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40. As always, you can be a part of the show. Hit up the Sissy's Log Cabin listener line, 901-360-8255. Text or call. And I want to know this on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener line. If SMU loses, are they in? Are they out, in your opinion? Tell us why. I would love to hear from everybody. Because like I said, I see both sides. I think there is an argument on both sides. So I want to hear from y'all. Sissy's Log Cabin, a listener line at 901-360-8255. Let us know your thoughts there. And as always, this hour brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Perfect time this weekend to get out to Lexus. Check out those beautiful vehicles. Test drive them. Holidays right around the corner. I think, 17, 18 days away from Christmas. So it'll be here before you know it. Maybe make your holidays brighter with a new vehicle at Lexus of Memphis. And we appreciate them every day for being a part of the show. Well, let's go ahead and get to top story of the day.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day, it's got to be conference championship weekend in college football. It starts tonight. We already talked about the 3 games tonight: Conference USA Championship, Mountain West Championship, and AAC Championship. I'll keep an eye on all 3 of these games. I'll watch a good bit of the Tulane and Army game. I really like watching Army this year. I think a really solid team. And Tulane, how do they respond after what happened last week, the loss against Memphis at home? But all eyes tonight will be on UNLV Boise State. You win and you're in as that group of 5 representative. Boise got the win the first time in Las Vegas. Maybe UNLV gets some rematch, and it would be the ultimate revenge. I mean, to get that win on the road in the conference championship and to erase everything that Boise State has done this year to be in the college football playoffs would really be incredible. But I know we'll get to our picks later. I don't want to spoil anything too much, but I think Boise State's done too much this year to let it slip away in the conference championship.
Well, I mean, this has got to be the biggest Mountain West Conference championship in history.
Oh, it's
huge. I mean, never been talked about this much before.
No,
and
it's
even though my team Hawaii's in it.
That's right.
I mean, it's never been talked about this much.
That's right.
Never before.
Yeah.
Well, my top story, sticking with the college football realm, it's been all over ESPN. A bunch of people have given their takes on it, but it's been Bill Belichick applying for the University of North Carolina head coaching position. I mean, you've got a lot of different views on this. I heard earlier today that Cam Newton was saying, like, he doesn't think it's going to fit because Cam Newton was there when he was at New England, was under his coaching, and he was just like, he doesn't feel like the style that Bill Belichick brings and what he's going to be talking about. Like, he was talking about, like, when you're on that team and you're under Bill Belichick, he makes it a point of emphasis. Everybody there is going to understand and know the fundamentals of football. And it doesn't matter what your previous accomplishments are, we're all on the same playing field. And then you've got people like Nick Saban and I believe it was Paul Feinbaum that were both like advocating for it. Like this would be a home run hire for him. And I can see the case for both ways. I could see how he would not fit because of the modern age. And if a kid doesn't like it, then all right, well, I'll just hit up the transfer portal. Let me go somewhere else where I'm going to be accepted and used properly. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, maybe this is exactly what North Carolina needs. They need a reshaping. They need a culture change. And I feel like Bill Belichick could be the person to absolutely do that.
Not top story of the day.
Well, it's weird. I just have a lot of questions about what Bill Belichick as a college coach would look like. There are a lot. I mean, it's not even the fact of like how different the NFL is from college football.
Oh, right.
It's just his age and
Yeah.
kind of how he goes about doing things. I think a lot more questions than I have answers for. Now, obviously, I'm not the one in those meetings.
I mean, you also got to think, if Bill Belichick is walking into that office and he's wearing all 8 of his Super Bowl championship rings, you're like,
interview him,
yeah. It's like, you guys want to make it to the top.
Yeah.
Look at my hands. I can take you there.
If Bill Belichick calls and says, "I want to interview at your school," you definitely say,
you incline your ear
Come
to
on
his
in.
word.
Yeah, we'd love to interview you. No question about it. My my not top story of the, I was getting ahead of myself. About to say what I could have done without. That's not for a couple of hours.
Yeah, we've got a long way to go.
Really. Grizzlies win again last night. We'll talk about it more in depth at 3:45. But a good win over the Kings, 115-110. John Morant gets ejected. He was defending DeMar DeRozan, and Lamar's kind of bumping into him. Ja's holding his ground. They end up calling a foul on John Morant, and I'll be honest, the reaction was a little over the top. He was very frustrated.
Very true.
You got to keep your head, but at the same time, that was a ridiculous call. And I'm one that I don't like blaming officials. I don't like pointing the finger at officials. It's a tough job, and a lot of times there are calls that they don't get right. There's a lot of times there are calls they get right, and some people think they didn't get it right. But last night, that was a bad call, I think. And they even came out after the game and said it was a bad call in the pool report. So it was unfortunate how that played out. But the Grizzlies get back to winning. After that 6-game win streak was cut against the Dallas Mavericks, they get back to winning. So 7 of their last 8 games have resulted in wins. But it gets difficult now tomorrow night on the road against the Boston Celtics, the defending NBA champs. And then on Sunday, they'll play on the road again against the Washington Wizards.
Absolutely. And your top story is actually my not top story, is the college football conference championship weekend. We already talked a lot about it, so I'm not going to go heavily into it. But at this point, I feel like at this time next year, they're going to become obsolete. Yep. I mean, with all the complaints that have been going around and just what's the point anymore, right? And so still going to be an interesting weekend of games. Yep. I can't complain about another weekend of college football. It's going to be a beautiful thing, but
anytime you give me football, I'm all for it. I will never complain.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to a break. When we come back, we're talking some wagering with Alan Bell.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hello, sports fans out there. Walker Taylor here with the Germantown and Collierville Commissary. We just celebrated our 43rd year in business, and I would like to thank our fantastic customers and especially our loyal staff. Time has flown by. We now have a second location, Poplar and Houston Levy in Collierville. Catering is a specialty of ours. 50 to 5,000, no job too small, no job too big. Full service or self-service. We also have a party room in Collierville that is great for rehearsal dinners, business meetings, you name it, we'd love to have you. Also, our barbecue party packs start at $8.75 a person. Barbecue, beans, slaw, bun sauce, including serving utensils. Especially great for tailgating with football season coming up. The commissary restaurants also believe in giving back to the community. Possibly you have been approached by somebody selling a barbecue six-pack coupon for fundraising. Cheerleading groups, church groups, anything to help a worthy cause. Holidays are near. Smoked hams and smoked turkeys will be on the pit before you know it. Come see us at Germantown and Collierville Commissary. Also check us out at commissarybarbecue.com.
Because it's Christmas, Family Leisure needs your help. Family Leisure has inventory that is off the move because you know it's Christmas. So don't wait. You can complete your ultimate game room with a new pool table, a new shuffleboard, new arcade games, or just get all of them for Christmas. Tons and tons of theater seating, overstock, and place to move. 'Tis the season for fire pits. And all fire pits at Family Leisure are now 20 to 30% off. You say you didn't get a spa this year? Let's say no more. Spas are in stock, ready for Christmas delivery, and up to $1,500 off. These are just a few of the deals happening right now for Christmas. Just come on by and check out their gigantic showroom. You never know what kind of deal you're going to find. Family Leisure. With Road and I-40, where family and fun come together for Christmas. Family Leisure, 2120 Whitney Road in Memphis, right off I-40.
High-energy, full-body workout
That utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather.
to achieve his impressive 50-0 record.
The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rows, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova.
Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness.
901-673-1267. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Tires. Here are your hosts, Star Sports Movie and Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Brian Landon with you. No Brett today. He'll join us a little bit later at about 5:30 when we get to our First National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast. But we got to talk some wagering now, and joining us, like he does every single Friday, Alan Bell from the AB3 and Driving the Line. He joins us now. Alan, what's up, man? Thursday Night Football has really lived up all year, but last night was a thrilling game.
Dude, it has, man. First, I appreciate having me back, and you're right, man. I mean, last night was awesome, right? And it's just fun to see when we get two really good teams in a division, playing for that division. I mean, you just can't beat it, man. That was just awesome to watch.
Yeah, it really, really fun. Well, let's get to some of these games this weekend, and let's start in the NFL. I think some fun games to kind of look at, and I think Brett and I were talking earlier this week. It feels like this year in the NFL, there are teams that are really, really good, and there are teams that are really, really bad. It doesn't feel like we have that kind of middle of the pack that we usually have of teams of, will they make a run? Will they not make a run? Feels like there are very, very few teams that fit that criteria. But I'll start off with a game at noon on Sunday. Browns on the road against the Steelers. Steelers have been covering machines. They've been really good this year, especially at home. Right now, Pittsburgh, a 6.5-point favorite. The total at 43.5. Is this maybe too big of a number for the Steelers at home, or do you think they can cover that?
Man, that's a good question, right? Like, that's a big number, but, I mean, the Steelers, like, if everyone would have just bet, and I'm including myself in this, like, if we'd have all just bet the Steelers every game, right? Like, and I feel like we could have said this for 10 years about Mike Tomlin, man. It's just such a good coach. It's a lot of points, but again, I mean, how do you not bet with them? Like, like they're winning now in any style of game that they need to. They go to the Bengals, score 40-something points, they can beat you with defense. Now, I will say, All right, the Browns are the only team that kind of got him, right? Like, Jameis Winston is not afraid to go out there and throw the rock around. But I'll just say, on principle, I'm going to bet the Steelers until they tell me not to bet the Steelers.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I mean, it's kind of an automatic right now for the Steelers. A team that you're very familiar with, the Tennessee Titans, they're actually favored this weekend because they're hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that is 2-10 this season, and they will be without their starting quarterback. So right now, Titans a 3.5-point favorite, that total at 40.5. Do you like anything in this one, or is this just kind of the maybe stay away from this game?
I'll tell you this, all right? Look, I don't hate betting the Titans here, all right? You know, we go back to that Washington game last week. It was pretty much everyone but Will Levis playing terribly. Will Levis is quietly playing okay the last few weeks, right? I'll tell you the best way to go about it is to take the over in this game. Yeah. I think that you're going to see Brian Callahan and the Titans offense come out and score points, right? I think that they're just because they didn't really get the ball, but they were kind of coming back, man. In the second half of that game, I think the over is the play here. Jacksonville will score 2. They'll put up points. It won't be the most exciting game out there, but there are going to be points scored in it. Just take the over 40.5, man. That's what it is.
Yeah. Alan, we do a segment every Friday afternoon. We'll do it in a couple hours called Friday Football Forecast, where we make our picks against the spread for the weekend. And we do one of our picks is a shock, where we have to take an underdog in the NFL. And I'll go ahead and say this. My shock this weekend is the Bears plus 4.5 against the 49ers, kind of going into that idea of you fire your coach and, you know, for whatever reason, it gives that team a spark. It felt like, you know, I heard a lot of people talking about what the players were saying after that loss by the Bears on Thanksgiving. It felt like everybody was blaming coach. Everyone was saying, yeah, this was kind of on Eberflus for not calling that timeout. The Bears have played well. They just haven't been able to find wins. And then on the other side, 49ers just all season have been all beat up. What do you think about this game, that total at 43.5?
Yeah, you know what? I don't hate that at all. Because you are right. Like, there is a bump that you get, like, when the coach gets fired. It always happens. You know what I mean?
It's weird. It is there.
I know, it is. Like, it's a real thing, man. So, like, I'm with you on taking the points alone at +4. Now, the tough part is that San Francisco's coming off a pretty tough one as well, right? And we're going to see what kind of backbone that they've got. But just in general, man, +4, I don't mind it at all. Yeah. I don't mind that one at all. Now, you may give you mine?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to take the Rams +3.5 at home against the Bills. And this is nothing against the Bills because they are playing on absolute fire right now. But I think that, I mean, they've won 7 straight. They've scored 30-plus points in 6 straight. It's a lot to keep that up. And I think that Sean McVay and the Rams, like, they can muddy this game up, you know, and just kind of make it ugly. I'm not saying the Rams win, but I'll take +3.5. I think it's going to be a really low score.
Is that your favorite bet of the NFL, or do you have others?
Man, I'll tell you this. All right. Give me the Eagles -13.5 against the Panthers. Everyone's going to think this is a look-ahead game, and I totally get that. But here's why I disagree. Number one, big spreads in the NFL usually cover. Number two, the Eagles, if they were dependent on the pass and Jalen Hurts, and this is nothing against Jalen, I'd be totally with it. They're going to run the ball down Carolina's throat all night long.
Yeah.
Like, just all day long. I don't think that Carolina's going to ever really have the ball. I think it's going to look like the Lions, you know, with 37 minutes of time of possession last night. Like, you're going to see Philly with numbers like that. So I am rolling Philly -13.5. As crazy as that sounds, that is my favorite bet of the weekend.
No, I like it. A big number there, but the Eagles have been playing good ball. Let's go to college football and talk some of these conference championship games. 3 games tonight, with the biggest one being UNLV and Boise State. The winner will get that Group of 5 spot in the college football playoffs. Do you like anything in any of the 3 games tonight?
Yeah, so, all right, I bet Boise State -4. It's now at 4.5. I don't mind that at 4.5 as well because what you just said.
Yeah. Like,
Boise has to win this game to get in. And they run the football. They've got arguably the best running back in college football to do so, right? Like, yeah. I like them to handle their business. But, that being said, if Boise State loses tonight, okay, we have chaos in the college football playoff tomorrow, right? Like, it is going to be chaos. I would like to see it, but I do like this Boise State team. They're fun to watch. So, look, I'm going to roll Boise State -4.5. The interesting part, Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State, they just played last weekend, and they're running it back again.
Yeah.
I like Jacksonville State -4.
Okay, I like it. Jack State -4. What do you think about, and it's been something I think pretty much everybody in the country has been talking about it this week. I know Brett and I have talked about it a lot, but Tuesday night, we get the college football playoff rankings. Alabama is ahead of Miami, which really doesn't bother me that much. I think going into it, it did a little bit, but then after hearing the explanation, you understand it. Alabama playing a much tougher schedule than Miami. Miami really hasn't looked that great for a lot of parts of the season, especially that defense. But the idea, and I think Ward Manuel talked about it in a media teleconference after the ranking show and after he talked with ESPN, but was asked about SMU, and if SMU loses in the ACC Conference Championship game, could they drop behind Alabama, which would mean they would be out of the playoffs if they drop behind Alabama? And he said potentially, yes, that could happen. Where do you stand on if SMU loses tomorrow, them being in or out?
Man, I'll say this. If they lose a tight game, like, how do you punish a team that's playing an extra game on the schedule?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Alabama's not playing. And look, this is nothing against Alabama. I would say the same thing about Tennessee, whatever, right? Like, they're not playing this extra game. They didn't make their conference championship, right? So, I wouldn't want to punish SMU like that.
No.
Now, I totally get Alabama over Miami. I get that because Miami's had a really weak schedule. I felt pretty bad for Ole Miss. I felt pretty bad for South Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, I felt that those teams had a good argument, but Bama's like Notre Dame in the early '90s, dude. Like, they hang around, man.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
You can't give them like a shot because they're always going to get that chance. So it's tough for me. But if SMU, if they do happen to lose and it's a close game, how do I punish them for that? You know what I mean?
Well, it sounds like you're saying what I've kind of been saying all week. If they lose by 30 points, if they just go out there and have no pulse, get blown out of the water, sure, Alabama, enjoy the playoffs. But if it's a close game, if it comes down to 3-7, they lose something like that, a really close back and forth game, I still think they've got to be in that playoff field on Sunday.
I agree. Yep, 100% agree, man. Like, I can't punish them for playing an extra game and an extra game against the top, 12th ranked team, Yeah.
So what do you think about this game? Right now, SMU a 2.5-point favorite over Clemson, that total at 55.5.
I really like SMU.
Yeah, I love SMU.
And I said, I do too. Like, no, I said top 12. I know that Clemson, they're ranked lower than that. But, man, like, I feel like SMU's handled their business, and I felt like they know what time it is. And, Clemson getting in, even after having lost to, South Carolina, I can't buy in to what Clemson is doing. Now, can they win? Of course, but I'm rolling SMU. I'll take SMU at the points. Give me them all day long.
Yeah. Last one for you. Georgia and Texas tomorrow for the SEC championship. Right now, Texas a 2.5-point favorite. That total at 49.5. What do you like here?
I like points in this game. I feel like both teams are going to have to get after it. They're going to have to score because once one team gets up by 7, gets up by 10, you got to go. Like there's no taking the foot off the gas. So I like playing the over in this game. I'll bet Texas with the spread, but you hear that it didn't sound confident.
No, it didn't.
I feel much more better with the over because Georgia can go out and whoop Texas. They've already done it once, and Texas could go out and whoop Georgia. Like it's going to be a fun game. I'd rather root for points than have to bet one side or the other.
Yeah, we mentioned the SEC and the ACC. Is there anything you like in either the Big Ten or the Big 12 championship game?
So all right. So you asked the question about the Big Ten, right? Like Oregon is sitting there -3.5. I get that. You know what? Like the game might not mean a ton to them, but I don't think that they're just automatically locked in.
Yeah.
To the number one. Like if they get blown out, don't care. Like give me Oregon -3.5. Like I feel like they're that much better than Penn State, and that's nothing against James Franklin and them, but yeah, like give me Oregon minus 3.5. That's a bet that the price worth the admission. If I lose, fine, it's worth the price.
Yeah, well, price worth the admission. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people out there betting more money on this game than it would take to get a ticket to it. I mean, what was it, $20
right.
to get into the door? I mean, it's little
Can't
crazy
even go to
some of those
McDonald's
prices.
for that
Yeah.
anymore. I know.
My lunch today was cost more than to get a ticket to the Big Ten Championship. Well, Alan, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck this weekend, and we'll do it again next Friday.
Hey, look forward to it, buddy. Y'all be good, man. Take care.
Thanks, Alan. Alan Bell from the AB3 and Driving the Line joining us. Give us some bets for both the NFL and college football. Make sure you go check out Driving the Line. They do a daily show where they give you all their picks and can really explain it. Lay it out to you very simply of who they're betting on and why they're betting it. So make sure, go check that out on YouTube. Let's get to another break. When we come back, we got to talk some Grizzlies. Last night, they get the win over Sacramento, but John Morant did not finish the game, was ejected. We'll talk about that next on Sports Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
When you're working outdoors, unpredictability is the norm. So take on the toughest jobs with the 2025 Honda Pioneer 7. This rugged side-by-side looks powered AT party with reliable torque fidelity and smooth shifting from trails. And you can choose between 3 trims: standard, deluxe, or the Trim Timber Force Edition. Ultimate Hamilton Adventures. See the 2025 Honda Pioneer 700 today at Casino Honda, 5637 Mill Road in Old There's no gift that's more beautiful, personal, and more meaningful than the piece of jewelry. It's the showcase of pieces of Genesis. Genesis is put together the most impressive selection of can't-miss gifts, rings, earrings, pendants, every taste and every price range, from pieces to most selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches has never been better. And just for the summer, listen to this: Genesis is offering 5 years of 0 interest financing on any holiday purchase with this special offer. Everything's no fun. Just go to divide the price by 60 and match your payment. So come to Genesis Diamonds, buy a rental tailgate, and choose that perfect gift. This holiday season, and spread your payments over 5 years. Check holiday store hours and finance details at genesisdiamonds.com. Genesis Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat of your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today for their loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlboro, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Let's Talk Sports with Brian Davis.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant Landon with you. No Brett. He's out today. He'll join us a little bit later in the show at 5:30 for our First National Bank and Trust Friday football forecast. But we got to talk Grizzlies. Last night, they were in action against the Sacramento Kings. They get the win. Now winners of 7 of their last 8 games after the loss earlier this week against the Dallas Mavericks. But like I said, 115-110, a game where John Morant only plays 28 minutes because he was ejected from the game after picking up his second technical foul. Picked up a first one early in the game, but then that second one came later in the game when he's playing defense on DeMar DeRozan. Good defense. DeMar DeRozan's kind of bumping him, bumps him a second time, and they call a foul. They called on Ja. Really, it wasn't even really a bump. It looked like kind of, if you were looking at the back, a bump, but when you looked at a different angle, it really wasn't even a bump at all. They call the foul on Ja. Ja immediately gets frustrated. He walks over towards the bench and is pointing at the ref that made the call and is saying something, and then gets a technical, gets ejected from the game. Taylor Jenkins lost his mind after that with the ejection. After the game, in the pool report for the referees, they determined that the foul should not have been called on Ja Morant, that it was a wrong call, and that which ultimately means he shouldn't have been ejected, because if that foul wasn't called, he would not have been frustrated and would not have gotten ejected. And so, really disappointing, a really bad call. When it happened, I mean, just watching it, you're like, what in the world type of call is that?
Hearing that reminds me of that back in football. It was Sunday game. I believe it was the Saints versus the Rams, back when Jared Goff was still there. And you had one of the biggest blown calls in the history of man, where that Saints defender ran in, or maybe, it was the Saints defender, head-butted him. Or no. It was the Rams defender. Head-butted the Saints receiver, did not make a play for the ball, nothing, and they did not call it a pass interference. And it's like, afterwards, I remember they had Jared Goff was on a show. He's like, do you think that should have been a pass interference? And he's just like, well, did they call it? Then no. It's like, you got to stick to your guns, even on something as bad as that. So to hear that the refs after that game are saying, we probably made a bad call there, shouldn't have been called. It's like, okay, dude, like, you got to stick to your guns, because even after looking at that and seeing that side angle of that play, and to see the ref was in position to see that Ja didn't lay a hand on the guy, and DeMar DeRozan just whiffs it, airballs, bad shot, and then next thing you know, calls a foul on them. So I understood the frustration going high. And at first it didn't look like Ja was really targeting anybody. He was just mad at himself. But, I mean, down on the court, probably overheard some things, probably definitely a lot of it maybe directed at the officials. So just a lot of heated tensions, a lot of things going into play with that. But like you mentioned earlier, you are on the professional level. You gotta strive to keep the level head. I mean, you're getting paid a lot of money to do this professionally. This is your job. So it very bad, very missed call. It really hurts to hear that they sat there and were like, we shouldn't have made it. Well, you got to stick to your guns, man.
So this is DeMichael Cole, our friend that joins us on Mondays. This is what he put out last night after the game. Refs admitted to missing the call that led to Ja Morant's foul on DeRozan and ejection. Quote, in live play, the official thought that Morant bumped DeRozan on his jump shot. However, after post-game review, Morant was in legal guarding position and should not have been called for a foul. It's one of those kind of double-edged swords where it's nice to know after the fact you're not crazy. Like that it should not have been called a foul, and at least the NBA officials are coming out and saying, hey, we missed it. You like that. But at the same time, it's like, well, there's nothing. Nothing
what is that going to do?
Now.
Just a nice pat on the back.
Exactly.
Like,
at least I know
the
I
thought
was
that
right.
Counts.
Exactly. So, but it was a really good game last night for the Grizzlies. A back and forth game. I mean, it felt like throughout the game, both teams were going on runs and someone would jump out with the lead, and the other team would come back, jump out with the lead. But this really came down to the bench. After Tuesday's game, Wednesday, we were talking about how the bench just really wasn't good enough against Dallas. They really struggled. I think Santi had a good game. Outside of that, the rest of the bench unit really struggled. But you look at last night against the Kings, Santi Aldama, double-double for him, 15 points, 10 rebounds. Jake LaRavia, 12 points, 8 rebounds for him. Jay Huff, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks. Marcus Smart, 18 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Scottie Pippen, 4 points, 3 assists, and 1 rebound. So that bench unit, 4 of your guys off the bench in double figures.
Yeah.
And so you really needed that because, in all honesty, Ja Morant struggled before getting ejected. He was 2 for 13, 0 for 6 from 3, finished with 8 points, 7 assists, and 3 rebounds. You had Jaren and Desmond and Jalen Wells all finishing double figures. So you really needed the bench to step up, and they really did. On the other side, Sacramento really didn't get much at all from their bench.
Totaled 15 points from their bench.
Yeah, so
night and day
murdered their
difference.
bench. Yeah, and that was huge. I think Mike Monk was really fun to watch for Sacramento.
Oh, for sure.
Add him. We were talking. Oh, it's probably been a month ago now, but it was a day Brett was out. It was just Darren and me in here, and we were talking about some team. I forget what team the Grizzlies played, and he goes, "Yeah, well, so and so's a Grizz killer." I go, what makes a person a Grizz killer? I mean, what defines you? Because you hear all the time, someone's a Grizz, ex-player's a Grizz killer. And maybe it was against Brooklyn, because I think Dennis Schroeder is a Grizz killer. And so I was like, what makes somebody a Grizz killer? And so we had people text in, who would you call a Grizz killer? And there was a bunch of names. Mike Monk, he's had some good games against the Grizzlies.
Yep.
Last night, it didn't lead to a victory, but 23 points for him, 5 assists, 4 for 9 from 3. Really fun player to watch from this area, so I'm sure had some family in to watch that game. DeMar DeRozan really good as well. He led the team with 26 points as well. So good game for them, or for the Grizzlies, 115-110, that final score. Now they'll turn around off tomorrow night on the road against the Boston Celtics, defending NBA champs, but a team that has been really, really good this year. Already 18-4 on the season, only 2 losses at home. So this is going to be a really tough game on the road.
Yeah, for sure. But if the Grizzlies can get production like they did last night, I mean, granted, one thing that I did notice in like rewatching the game was there was a few gaps in the defense. It looked like the Kings were wide open for a lot of threes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something you definitely got to correct and fix, because especially in this long stretch that the Grizzlies have on their schedule right now, you can't be letting those go. You can't be letting them get wide open threes. You can't let them get that open on all those kind of things. So I believe if the bench continues to produce the way that they had, the way that they did last night, and they continue to crack down on defense, I think we're looking at a really special run.
Yeah, and I think, luckily for the Grizzlies, Kings only shot 22% from 3 last night. So, I'm with you. A lot of open looks, but just could not knock them down. We got text in. Thanks for texting. A reminder, you can be a part of the show. Sissy's Log Cabin. Listener line 901-360-8255. This texter said, I've seen LeBron say and do a lot more to the officials and not get thrown out
That's
of
a very
games.
good point.
Good point. And kind of goes back to what we talk about with a lot of these players. When you are at that LeBron James level, that leash is a little bit longer. Kind of Dan Hurley, I remember us talking about him last week, I guess, with in Maui, where he's, just going crazy.
He's going
like,
berserk.
I was on Twitter, and I know we got to get to a break, but I was on Twitter during and after that game, and so many people that follow and cover college basketball surprised that he even got a technical in the game, because that's kind of Dan Hurley, where he loses his mind, but nobody wants to call a technical on him because he's Dan Hurley. He's one of the biggest names in college basketball coaching. And LeBron James kind of saying, best player, gets a little bit of a long leash.
He gets a little bit of leeway.
Yeah. I wish Ja Morant got the same, but unfortunately he does not. Let's go ahead and wrap up this first hour. When we come back, we're going to talk some more wagering. Bruce Marshall from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BamSports.net. He'll join us. We'll talk a lot of these conference championship games, get some picks for those. We'll get to some some NFL, and we might even get some basketball picks, NBA and college basketball for tonight and maybe even tomorrow. So stay tuned. Bruce Marshall, he joins us next.
Sometimes I wish I had a gun.
Well, I'm armed, but before I bought one, I still went to Top Gun Academy to learn to protect myself without a gun.
How is that possible?
Top Gun's personal protection training. It's perfect if you want to protect yourself without firearms.
I don't know.
And it's perfect if you feel the need to carry a gun for self-defense, because the last thing you really want to do is shoot.
That is scary.
Not at Top Gun. It's very comfortable, and you learn to load, handle, and shoot a handgun safely. Protect yourself. Go to Top Gun Academy. They're at 2770 Winton Road.
Corky's barbecue. Cooking it up. Down home way. Hickory smoke flavor like the good old days.
Hey y'all, Jimmy Stovall here with Corky's Barbecue. With over 175,000 cars served in our drive-thru, 4,000
this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a mother pheasant plucker, I pluck mother pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Five-Ash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
The holidays are near, and Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Generators is here to make this season extra cozy and cheerful. For the first 50 customers who purchase a new Carrier system, tankless water heater, or a whole home generator, we have a special gift for you. Choose from a $500 gift card or 60 months no interest financing. And don't forget about Choate's Refer a Friend referral program, where you could earn up to $500. Simply refer a friend to use our services, and if they become a customer, you could earn up to a $500 Visa gift card. But hurry, this festive offer will only last through December 20th. Visit ChoatesHVAC.com or call 347-8086 to schedule your free estimate today. And turn to the experts with Choates and let our family serve your family this holiday season.
Sports 56, WHVQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with John Martin, weekdays from 11 to 1. Joining the guys every Friday is college football historian and Vegas legend, Bruce Marshall from Vegas Insiders. CBS Sports, Vegas website, VegasSports.net, for over 30 years on Memphis Radio. Sports Time, here's Bruce Marshall with Brian and Brian.
Bruce Marshall joins us now from Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, and BamSports.net to talk some of these games. Give us some picks for these games this weekend. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with college football, and let's start with the Mountain West Championship game tonight. A lot on the line. Winner gets a trip to the college football playoffs, and Boise State right now in that driver's seat, 11-1, number 10 in the country right now, a 4.5-point favorite. That total at 57.5 tonight. These two teams played earlier this season. Boise State got the win, I think 29-24, the final score of that first game. Bruce, good afternoon. What do you think about the Mountain West Championship tonight?
Yeah, winning you're in this one, Brian. And I think Boise's a little vulnerable here. Let me tell you why. And this might not be the case as much in a couple weeks if they can win. And they probably get a bye if they get a win. And probably be the fourth seed. But they look a little tired to me in recent weeks. I mean, they have not covered their last three games against the number. Bryant, they really had a struggle against Nevada, a lower-tier Mountain West team here on the blue carpet 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, desperate up at Wyoming. I mean, really desperate. I mean, they could have lost that game very easily. And then last week they did not cover against Oregon State. Genty looks to me, he keeps putting these numbers up, but he has taken an enormous amount of punishment this year. Mm-hmm. And he dishes it out a lot, but, the Wyoming game 2 weeks ago, he was like out of the game, and they were treating him on the sideline, and it was, they called him, can you get back in there? And he did, and he made a big play to help them win, and he did it again last week against Oregon State, but something tells me this is going to be tougher for him. Wearing down late in the season. UNLV did a decent job slowing him down, by his standards at least, the first game. Barry Odom, his record on the road has been outstanding. UNLV did not look distracted at all last week. They took care of the same Nevada very easily that gave Boise a lot of trouble a few weeks ago. And Hodge Malik Williams has been a real playmaker. But the technicals here, even though Boise did win close mid-season, and they beat UNLV at the end of last year in the title game, but UNLV had started to fade by that point last year. I haven't noticed that this year.
Yeah.
I think UNLV can get them.
Wow.
And so I'm going to lean to the Rebels here tonight. I think they can win it outright. And who would have thought this team, among several that might be in the final 12, who would have thought these guys might be in the playoff? But I think it might happen.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that would be incredible if they win this game and knock Boise out and get that spot. That really would be something. Another game tonight, the American Athletic Conference Championship game, Tulane on the road against Army. Army's been really good this year. Their only loss against Notre Dame. On the other side, Tulane now 9-3 after dropping to Memphis on Thanksgiving last week. But Tulane, a 5-point favorite on the road here. That total at 45.5. Do you like anything in the AAC Championship?
Yeah, I think it might go under, and I'm going to lean to Tulane a bit. Although I was a little disturbed. I was on the air with you last Friday, and I thought, or I guess it was Wednesday last week before Thanksgiving, and I thought I was going to go with Tulane against Memphis, and they just didn't show for that game, which bothered me because at this, not because I recommended Tulane, but at this stage of the season, Brian, we might have talked about this before. Maybe last year we did, but distractions can start coming in late in the season that you don't normally get earlier in the season. It's mainly, in this case, of Tulane. I mean, John Summerall's name is coming up a lot. He's a Jimmy Sexton guy. He's going to have a chance to say no to some of these jobs coming up. So the players hear that, the portal stuff. I mean, Mensah's already been, they're talking about him. Maybe he goes in the portal. The quarterback there, all of a sudden you start thinking about that the last few weeks of the season, and you get distracted. And that team looked kind of distracted last week. Having said that, though, I'm still going to back Tulane here because I think they are the class of this league still, even though Memphis could give them an argument perhaps. But they were so good for so long. In Army, I think we have to wonder. Now, the last 4 games for Army, I know Notre Dame was spliced in there, but they've only scored 19 per game, and they were at about 44 per game in the 5 games before that. Bryson Daly, the quarterback, a lot of punishment, and he's had 102 carries his last 3 games. I mean, he's lugging at 34 so times per game. He's wearing down. This offense looks like it's wearing down some to me. And you look at, what was their best win this year? Was it UTSA, East Carolina before they fired Mike Houston, North Texas? Not a real impressive win in there for Army. I think Tulane goes up there, and if they get the lead tonight, they will win and cover it. And John Summerall, 28-12 against the spread last 3 years at Troy and Tulane. Then we hold on to your seatbelts, Greeny fans, and see what happens in the next couple of weeks with Summerall and some of these guys going to be going in the portal. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely could be a big name in that coaching carousel. Anything you like in the Conference USA Championship game tonight? Jacksonville State, 4-point favorite tonight. These two teams met last week, rematch this week. Anything there?
I like it under. I mean, I just over the sports book, I bet an under at 58.5. This game was 19-17 last week. Yeah, I know it didn't mean that much for Jacksonville State. It meant everything to Western Kentucky to force its way into the title game. But last year the score was 20-17. Western Kentucky's offense has slowed down in recent weeks, just under 16 per game in the last 3. You got 2 coaches here who might be on the move. Rich Rod's name has surfaced for West Virginia. Tyson Helt, another Jimmy guy, he shows up on the radar on the coaching carousel too, to maybe go somewhere. One other note, Tyler Huff, Jacksonville State's excellent RPO quarterback, went out of that game with what looked like a pretty severe ankle injury. He couldn't even put any weight on it last week. His status is iffy. I have not heard an update on his status other than game time. I would think he might not play tonight. That would be a blow for Rich Rod. The backup Smothers he started first half of last season. He did play some at Nebraska before that, so he's not completely green going in there, but still doesn't quite give him the dimension Huff does. But 58.5 looks way too high to me, so I'm going to go under here. I might be a little of Western Kentucky, but under is my first call tonight's USA, and it's going to be cold in Alabama tonight, about 34 degrees at kickoff.
Wow. Going to tomorrow, we've got the big conferences going, and it starts at 11 a.m. with the Big 12 championship game. Another win, and you're into the playoff. Neither of these teams in the top 12, but they would get the automatic spot being a conference champion. Iowa State, Arizona State. Right now, Arizona State, one of the better stories of the year in college football with what Kenny Dillingham has done. Arizona State, a 1.5-point favorite. That total at 50.5.
Yeah, good one tomorrow. Nothing says Big 12 like Arizona State, Iowa State, and Arlington, huh?
Yes.
There you go, modern college football dynamics. Interesting here. I mean, the winner is either going to get the 4 seed or the 12 seed, and that depends. If UNLV beats Boise tonight, the winner of this one gets the 4 seed, and they'll get a bye. Boise wins this team. The winner here probably gets a 12. So they'll be watching a little bit on that Mountain West tonight. You're right about Dillingham. I think he deserves Coach of the Year votes. I think it's kind of down to him, Kurt Signetti, and Jeff Bunkin, probably, for Coach of the Year. And he'll get some support. Great job there. It's his alma mater. He's from the Valley of the Sun. I don't know that anybody's going to pry him out of there. That's home for him, and he really loves it. The job he did with Sam Levitt at quarterback, Michigan State transfer, nothing short of remarkable. And we saw Dillingham do this. He got Bo Nix's career back on track a couple of years ago at Oregon, too. So obviously he knows what he's doing. He's a young guy, too. So full steam ahead. We know about Scadaboo, the running back. Runs over everybody. He is a real fun one, too. However, this team plays on a lot of emotion, and it's not going to be the same in Arlington. Whatever they say, it's going to be different. Iowa State's a little more businesslike here. I like Matt Campbell in these sorts in a spot like this. His defense, Heacock, the coordinator, it's a pretty rock rib defense, and I think this is a good match for Scadaboo, and they might slow him down a bit. And Rocco Beck is very serviceable. They have won some close games this year, too, Iowa State, so I don't mind them in a close battle. I'm going to take Iowa State here, and then we, depending upon what happens in the Mountain West, if they sit at 4 or 12 when they announce all this stuff on Sunday.
Yeah. SEC championship game later in the afternoon. Georgia and Texas in Atlanta. Right now, Texas a 2.5-point favorite. That total at 49.5. Both these teams met earlier in the season. It was all Georgia down in Austin. What do you think about tomorrow?
Well, and I'm seeing some threes up there now too, and I don't quite get it. I mean, this game is played in Georgia's backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, they play in Atlanta every year. They already played there once and beat Clemson. So it's like their second home. You're right. They did beat Texas handily the first game. Texas only ran for 29 yards. Now, they were behind early, so they had to sort of go away from it. But they weren't running worth a lick in that game. And Kirby's defense really showed up. Ewers looked very flustered in that game. They had to go to Arch Manning for a bit. I mean, that was... Listen, Texas this year, Greg Sankey can try to explain this schedule that it was random or computer spit this out. I mean, if that's the case, then they should have done it again because there's no way Texas should have gotten this break on the schedule this year. I mean, it's very difficult to get, there's no such thing as an easy schedule in the SEC, but there are easier schedules. Mm-hmm. And Texas had it about as easy as it could have it. They also caught a break. They caught Florida the one game. They had to play their third quarterback. The one real challenge they had was Georgia, and Georgia took care of them. I know Kirby's lost a couple games, and I don't think they're quite the same as they were the last few years. And they were struggling against Georgia Tech, but darned if they didn't come back and win that one last week. Carson Beck threw 3 picks the first game, and they still won handily. I'm taking Georgia outright tomorrow, and I think that'll get them a bye. And I'm still to be convinced that Texas is a super team. I'm not buying it yet, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night, Penn State and Oregon in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game. Right now, Oregon a 3.5-point favorite. That total at 50.5. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, a little tougher here. I mean, Oregon, they lose. They're going to get bumped out of the bye. So, they should be focused here. Their season's been a little funky because they've only had to flip the switch a handful of times. And that's maybe I'm overestimating them to think they can just do that whenever they wish. But I still think maybe we haven't seen the best of this Oregon, that they can open this up with Dylan Gabriel. He could have probably posted more stats this year, but the Ducks seem very content just to win games by modest margins for the most part. I don't know about Penn State at this level. I mean, they should be here. They're going to be in the 12th. But the hire of Andy Kotelnicki to run the offense was a shrewd one by James Franklin in the offseason. Brought Kotelnicki from Kansas. He has livened things up a lot. This was a stodgy offense last year, and Allard didn't throw the ball downfield much at all. But from watching Penn State in person and several times on TV, and they're a lot more creative this year. And Tyler Warren, the tight end, is really great. But they look a little too cutesy to me at times. It's too much empty backfield, got lots of motion, and Penn State should still be able to line it up and run you down. And I don't know if they use Singleton and Allen quite as much as they could have this year. We saw that haunt them down toward the goal line against Ohio State when they really should have been able to jam it in to at least force overtime. Couldn't do it. And I just think they're a little too cutesy to make a real run here in the postseason or win tomorrow. So I'm going to take Oregon, and that'll knock Penn State. I'll probably still get a home game in the first round, I think. But Oregon, I think, wins and goes in number 1 to the playoff.
Yeah. And then the last big game tomorrow night on ABC, Clemson and SMU, the ACC championship game. A lot of talk about what happens with SMU if they lose this conference championship game. Do they fall behind Alabama and get knocked out of the playoffs, or do they stay in? Right now, they're a 2.5-point favorite tomorrow in Charlotte. That total at 55.5. What do you think about tomorrow night's game?
Yeah, I guess that's about the only rankings drama left this week, because they're not going to move Alabama beneath, Ole Miss and South Carolina after last week, or Miami's not going to leapfrog them. What do they do with SMU? My gut feel is if SMU loses, they're probably out. But we will see. I don't think they're going to lose, though. I don't know that Clemson's great. This is not a vintage Dabo team. We thought that all year. They had 3 games this year where they were really challenged: the Georgia game in the opener, the Louisville game, and then last week against South Carolina. Close last week, but they still lost all 3 of those games. Here's an interesting stat. Now, Klubnik put up really good numbers this year: 29 TD passes, 5 picks. He ran for 7 TDs, almost 500 yards. Great dual threat. But most of that came against the soft part of the schedule. The games against App State and the Citadel, NC State when they were playing badly in September, Wake Forest. He threw 15 TD passes and no picks in those 4 games alone. In the 3 games versus Georgia, Louisville, and South Carolina, 1 TD pass and 2 picks. Clemson also scored less, 12.7 per game against those 3. When they had to step up, they didn't do it this year. And I think SMU is at the class of those teams that beat them. The defense, sacks, they rank, they're 37 sacks, pretty good, 11th in the nation. They're allowed about 20 per game. And Jennings, when they made the switch at quarterback, when Lashley benched Preston Stone and went to Jennings early in September, that was a brilliant move, because Jennings' dual threat ability has really sparked this offense. A lot of big plays. I think SMU wins. They'll make a moot point out of any debate after this week. And frankly, I don't want to see Clemson in the 12. They get beat right off the bat, so at least SMU offers some intrigue. Let's see the Ponies win this one tomorrow in Charlotte.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm definitely pulling for SMU in that game tomorrow night. The other 2 championship games tomorrow, Group of 5 conference, Marshall, Louisiana, and then Ohio, Miami of Ohio. Is there anything in either of those games that you like?
I really like Miami O. Now, they have beaten Ohio U handily, almost the exact same way the last 2 years. It was 30-16 last year, 30-20 this year, and those scores were deceiving. And both Ohio U scored late to make it a little more respectable. The game this past October, they scored with 6 seconds left. They were down 30-6 into the fourth quarter.
Wow.
They haven't been able to run too well in either of those games against Miami. The game in October 19th, Gabbert threw 3 TD passes. Mosey had a long touchdown run. Good balance. They're the class of this league, so I'm going to take Miami O at a short price. I'm thinking about Marshall tomorrow. I know Michael DeSormo did a really nice job with the Ragin' Cajuns this year, but Marshall only dropped 1 point spread decision all year, and they seem to have been sparked late in the season by the Tulsa transfer, Braylon Braxton at quarterback. He's turned into a nice playmaker, 17 TD passes, just 2 picks. I saw him play against Memphis at the Liberty Bowl 2 years ago when he was still at Tulsa and they were struggling, but he looks good this year, so I'm leaning to the Herd tomorrow down in Cajutan Field.
I like it. Over to the NFL, what do you like there on Sunday?
You're going to laugh at this one. I like the Giants this week.
Okay.
Saints shouldn't be laying. It's up to like 5. The Giants, they're going to start Drew Lock again. I mean, this is what they should have been doing ever since they moved on from Daniel Jones. He's a better option than DeVito. He moved the offense pretty well last week, got a fluky touchdown that Dallas got off of a pick six, but he moved the offense a lot better. He's a legitimate NFL quarterback. I'm not convinced DeVito is. I think the Giants are kind of interesting in that game Sunday. Monday night, I think Dallas is interesting here. Cincinnati just doesn't have it this year. The defense is abysmal. And Dallas, not quite out of this thing yet because they get Washington again. They beat Washington once. If the Commanders wobble a bit, Dallas could still make a late run. I don't think Cooper Rush is that bad. 2 good wins in a row for Dallas. You're getting points here, and they got that home bugaboo out of the way when they beat the G-Men on Thanksgiving. I'm taking Dallas on Monday night.
Oh, Bruce, I love to hear that. Game I've been kind of looking at, and I'm curious your thoughts on Sunday. Bears on the road against the 49ers. 49ers 3.5-point favorite. Bears have played well the last couple of weeks, just haven't been able to finish the job. They fire Matt Eberflus after that horrific end-of-game time management on Thanksgiving Day. Maybe to get a boost with the interim in there. 49ers on the other side. All year they've been banged up. Now Christian McCaffrey out again with an injury. What do you think about San Francisco minus 3.5 on Sunday?
Oh, no, I like the Bears here. That would have been the next one I would have probably mentioned. The change of we see that a lot, coaching change, the team gets sparked. This team has been right there ready. They could be sitting at 8-5, 7-5, something like that into this week. Instead, they've lost like every close game the last month plus. It really turned around for them when Washington hit that Hail Mary back on October 27th, and they haven't won since, but they've been close, and the Niners are a disaster right now. Too many injuries. This reminds me of 2020, and it was a lot of defense that year that got wiped out. But they had Garoppolo was still quarterback, and he got wiped out that year too. They got too many injuries, and they are not responding. Too many key guys are hurt. I think the Bears win this thing outright on Sunday.
Yeah, I really like that one on Sunday. Before we let you go, Bruce, anything you like tonight or tomorrow in the NBA or college basketball?
Yeah, NBA tonight. I'm going to go under with the T-Wolves and Warriors. Still not sure about Steph and Draymond Green if they play. They didn't play last night. But irrespective if they're in there or not, Minnesota, look at the defense. They can play elite defense, Minnesota. I mean, they're allowing, 84 points per game this week. I mean, in 3 games, the defense really turning the screws. 219.5 is too high tonight, so I'm going to look at under in that one. College tonight, I might give West Virginia a look. Georgetown, my argument about Texas and the schedule would apply to Georgetown, too. They've played one significant game, and they got whipped by Notre Dame. West Virginia got 2 nice wins in the Bahamas last week. They get him at home tonight. Darian DeVries, the coach from Drake, his son is there. The transfer guard from Oklahoma State's doing great, so West Virginia there. And one more tomorrow night, Nevada, just out of the blue here. Nevada, bad effort earlier this week at Washington State. They will beat Loyola Marymount, lay the points tomorrow in Westchester.
I love it. Bruce, where can we find more of you?
Thanks, Bryant. Check me out online. Picks, all this stuff. College football having a great year, and NFL good too. Hoops, hockey, the whole thing. VegasInsider.com. You can also get my stuff at CBS Sportsline, Sportsline.com, and the new place for picks with a different twist, winnersandwhiners.com and picksandparlays.com.
Bruce, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We'll do it again next week.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Bruce Marshall joining us. Make sure to go check out his picks, Vegas Insider, CBS Sports, BAMSports.net, Winners and Whiners. Check out all his picks. And he just gave you picks for pretty much every single conference championship game this weekend. So you're ready for them. Starting tonight, going into tomorrow. Also gave some NFL and some basketball picks. So a little bit of everything. Looks like the city of Memphis will at least have one state champ return, one golden ball already, 2 more up in the air, but the first team looks like they'll get the win. Mace up 36-14 right now over South Pittsburgh. 4:27 left in that game. Mace just scored a touchdown. So it looks like Mace going to bring home a gold ball. Hopefully I did not just jinx that, but looking pretty good. Only 4:18.
I was about to say, it'd be hard to blow a lead
That's why
in 4 minutes.
Landon,
It's not impossible.
I'm the most superstitious person when it comes to sports.
I'm a little stitious.
I'm very superstitious. And so I had to wait. When I saw that it was like 4 minutes left and they scored, I was like, it's almost like the hammer nail coffin, right? You can't do it too early.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wait until you know there's no chance they come back and win, and then you hit the hammer nail coffin. This one feels like it's over. 36-14. Congratulations to Mace. And we'll keep you updated. We'll let you know when that game does go final, that they have won it.
But I guess technically you were the first one to wish them congratulations. So
look at
you
me.
can put that on your resume if you'd like.
Melrose, they'll play tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. for state championship, and then tomorrow night Houston High School will go as well. That's actually a rematch of last year's game against Oakland. So we'll see if they can go back-to-back with state championships. We need to get to another break. When we come back, we're going to talk some SEC. We're going to talk the Arkansas Razorbacks. Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas. He joins us next.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM. There's no better place in Memphis to catch up with your out-of-town friends than Bell Tavern, Memphis's best downtown neighborhood bar. This is the time of year when old friends and far-flung relatives swing into town for a few days, and you want to get together someplace quiet, someplace friendly, and someplace with ice-cold beer and signature cocktails you can't find anywhere else. And that, my friends, is Bell Tavern. Tucked into Barbaro Alley, Bell Tavern is tailor-made for being with people you haven't seen in a while, and you get to show off the fact that you know the greatest bar in Memphis, and they don't.
It's inevitable. Rain, snow, and ice are coming and will make driving a challenge. Thankfully, the experts at Tire Rack know a thing or two about conquering winter's worst. New tires elevate traction and will keep you safe. Tire Rack sells only the best, like the full line of Toyo tires. Go to TireRack.com/Colin. Build a winter tire and wheel package for do-it-yourself installation. Ship fast and free and backed by 2 years of free road hazard protection. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
There's no difference more beautiful, more versatile, and more meaningful than There's no difference to share this with the season in Genesis time. Most impressive selection of can't-miss gifts. Rings, earrings, pins, bracelets, bands, tasting at the price range. From diamond classics to amazing designer fashion. Rolex watches has never been better. And just for December, we're offering 5 years, 0 interest financing on any holiday purchase. With a special offer, everything's affordable. Just pick any item, divide the price by 60, and that's your payment. So come to Genesis Diamonds. Our experts help you choose the perfect and modern gift present. And spread your payments over 5 years. Get holiday store hours, directions, and finance details at GenesisDiamonds.com. Happy holidays with Genesis Diamonds.
Give the gift of entertainment. Admit it. When you start thinking about tastes of Memphis, you think treats, sweets. You think Dinstall's. for 122 years now. What is that, 5 generations? When people wanted something to bring to a party that will just make everybody happy, they bring out Dinstall's. 122 years of Cashew Crunch, of Heavenly Hash, of Turtlettes, of their award-winning fudge. That's worldwide. It's known that well. Then there's the milk chocolate. It all starts there. There's the double dip peanuts. And then every fall, those famous chocolate-covered strawberries with that fondant. And they won't tell you what's in the fondant, but it makes it oh so special. And easy to get to. 5 locations. There's where they make the candies in Pleasant View. There's Germantown. There's Collierville. There's even one downtown. And in my neck of the woods in Laurelwood. You know what? 122 years made in Memphis and enjoyed by the whole world. Dinstall's.
Sports 56 traffic.
And trying to build through the Midtown area just in the last few minutes. Still moving over here on 40 East and westbound around Chelsea. 40 West, however, has picked up at Danny Thomas, trying to get across the Hernando de Soto Bridge back over into West Memphis. Now we have seen radar out in Arkansas this afternoon down I-40 towards Forest City. Hey, shop now and save during the holiday season. Where? Weimer's Jewelry. They're conveniently located 7525 Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck. Your on-time traffic.
Razorbacks on Sportstime. Joining the guys is Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas to talk all things Hogs and SEC. On Twitter X at Ty Sports Radio, here's Ty Richardson with Bryant and Brett.
Come on, all you Razorback fans, let's stand up and call those Hogs!
Ty Richardson joins us now from ESPN Arkansas and Fort Smith. Talk some Razorbacks and the SEC championship game tomorrow, so we'll have to talk about that. But Ty, I want to start off talking about the Razorbacks. Regular season has come to an end, 28-21, a loss against Missouri in the last game, a snow game in Missouri. So the Razorbacks finished the regular season 6-6. We'll see where they end up in a bowl game. Reaction, though, from you on what this regular season was for the Razorbacks.
It was up and down. I mean, you get a win against Tennessee. You do the same thing you do always in Columbia. Guys, we might be seeing each other face to face if Arkansas plays in the Liberty Bowl in the 27th. You see Harold Grader and everyone else, but I had them 6-6 before the season. But I mean, if you beat Missouri and you win your bowl game to 8 wins to double up your win total from 2023, that's massive. And you've got momentum, and now you've lost a few guys to the portal that I'm sure we're going to talk about, but it's just a weird. It's a weird. You're going back and forth what this season was, Brian.
Yeah. So when you talk about bowls, has it been, at least in your area, what you're hearing? Does it sound like maybe Liberty Bowl is the possibility, or what kind of bowls have been thrown out there for Arkansas?
They all get thrown out. Birmingham, Liberty Bowl in Memphis, the Texas Bowl in Houston, Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. No one has any idea, I think. It's just kind of a wait and see.
Yeah, and we'll find out on Sunday. There was this year's kind of been weird for Sam Pittman. He starts the season certainly on the hot seat. We talked to you about, kind of what would it take for him to keep his job, and then it felt like that almost shifted mid to late in the season to maybe Sam Pittman might say, I've had enough, and retire after this season. Well, we learned after that game against Missouri, he's not going to retire. He's going to come back next year. Was there any real conversation that you had heard about him retiring, or was that just kind of all kind of thrown in there along the way?
You know how Twitter starts. Right? One guy says something, and then it takes on a life of its own. I got no idea if there's any substance to that, if there's any truth to that whatsoever. I do know fans were talking about it. I think the surgery, I hope he's okay. I haven't had to deal with a busted hip, and I felt bad for him during the season. Musk had to deal with a messed up shoulder years ago, and that was tough on him, but hopefully he recovers, and hopefully he's got some new energy for this upcoming season. But he's got a tall task ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless if we're playing the Liberty Bowl or not, we're coming to Memphis. And we'll see you next year. And I'm not feeling confident that Arkansas is going to walk away with that victory. Memphis is good. That should be a tough game next year.
Yeah. So what are the kind of biggest things for this offseason? If and obviously we still got a bowl game and then it really gets to the offseason, but if we were talking about Ty Richardson's checklist for Arkansas football 2025, what would be on there for this offseason?
I would say you got to get some linemen, both on offense and defense. Apparently Nico Davier has entered the transfer portal, young man from Maumelle. You've got a couple other offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I'm curious to see what they do. It starts in the trenches, and Arkansas had a pretty good defensive line at times. Offensive line was a little better than last year, but that's not saying much. So they've had some really good offensive lines over the years. It's just been a while. And if you can get back to that, then you're going to have a chance to at least compete in the SEC, guys.
Yeah, no, you absolutely will. I saw earlier today Luke has entered the transfer portal, the tight end. I remember talking about him a lot last year when he was a true freshman, was back again this year. But a guy that, last year and this year has battled some injuries, but you definitely can't take away from the talented player he is.
Yeah, that one hurt. A lot of people really like Luke. They're excited. Bobby Petrino, coach, DJ Williams, Mackey Award winner, Chris Gregg, who's pretty good from Warren, Arkansas. And the expectation was Luke's coming off his injury last season with a broken collarbone. He's going to take a big sophomore surge. Instead, he wasn't targeted much, found himself blocking more often than running routes, and Taylon Green didn't always look for him in certain situations. So Luke evidently thinks it's best to continue his career elsewhere. I wish him nothing but the best. But, yeah, that one stung earlier today.
Yeah, that one was big. You mentioned Bobby Petrino. It felt like his name was kind of been thrown around for some of these group of 5 jobs that have been open. It hadn't seemed like he's bit on any of them. Does it feel like he's going to be back next year as the OC, or do you think maybe somebody comes calling and that's the right one, and he tries and goes and tries head coaching again?
The Charlotte job was interesting, and nothing became of it, or he didn't end up leaving, I should say. One of them, either him or Charlotte, decided it was best that they mutually would move on. I'm curious if another group of 5 head coaching job comes open, or if another high-profile coordinator job comes open, if there would be interest in both parties. I think Arkansas fans are hoping that he can have a year or two with Taylon Green if Taylon elects to stay. And if he doesn't, if either Taylon leaves or Bobby leaves, then you're looking at starting over on offense again, which is not necessarily the recipe for success next season.
No, not at all. Talking to Ty Richardson, he joins us every week to talk the Arkansas Razorbacks and the SEC from ESPN Arkansas. SEC championship game tomorrow. It's a rematch between Georgia and Texas. We saw that earlier this year in Austin, and it was all dogs in that one. What do you think we see tomorrow in Atlanta?
I would take Texas in this one just because of what happened in Austin, even though that's a home game for Georgia. I just feel like the Longhorns aren't going to get beat twice. You might see this in the college football playoff, too. Heck, we might see it 3 times. So think about Georgia. Georgia played in Mercedes-Benz against Clemson earlier this year. They are playing in the SEC championship tomorrow. And I'm forgetting Mercedes-Benz is either a semi-quarter in the national championship game. So they might get to play it 3 times this year if things shake out that way, which would just be nuts. I think it's 3. I don't think it's 4. I think it's 3. So for Georgia, yes, they're going to try and win tomorrow like any other team would. They're squarely in the college football playoff either way, I think. But I think that Texas is going to get the better of them. And Texas did not play anyone in year 1 of the SEC. If you're Greg Sankey, you've got to give them a tougher schedule starting in 2026 because all they're going to do is reciprocate, go to the away stadiums that they hosted this year. But it was pretty bad, the job the SEC did when it came to just giving them a cakewalk in year 1.
Yeah, no, it was a very easy schedule for them, and they've definitely cashed in on it. We didn't talk with you last week because we were out for Thanksgiving and all of that, but where did you stand on the whole 3-loss SEC teams going into the last college football playoff rankings on Tuesday?
not the better teams in football. I mean, if the committee's idea is trying to make the best 12 teams, one, they're kind of handicapped and strapped because of the restrictions on certain college football playoff teams and how this thing is set up and orchestrated. And, I mean, you can't tell me that certain teams that are destined to play in the college football playoff are better than maybe the 4th or 5th SEC team. I'm never going to believe that. Maybe I'm an SEC apologist. Maybe my bias is too great. That's just kind of how I feel, Brian.
I mean, I think it's a good argument. I think, we were talking about it on Tuesday before it was thrown out there, and I think we agreed that, Miami should probably be ahead of Alabama. And then watching the rankings show and hearing Ward Manuel explain why the committee picked Alabama over Miami, I was kind of like, I understand. Alabama's played a tougher schedule, and, them having 3 losses, you look at those losses, you look at some of those other games, and it really did not bother me that Alabama was ahead of Miami. Switching gears, going to basketball. Arkansas basketball, they got the win earlier this week against Miami, but before that, a big-time showdown on Thanksgiving against Illinois, 90-77 loss to Illinois on Thanksgiving. What did you see in that game in a matchup between 2 top 25 teams?
I saw Illinois shoot the lights out that day, and apparently that regular season game, Brian, was like the highest recorded wise in quite some time.
Yeah, I saw that.
You directly followed an NFL game on Thanksgiving, which I think Arkansas is going to try and do next year. But Arkansas's got issues. They haven't played well against better opponents like Baylor and Illinois. They barely scraped out a win against Miami earlier this week, and I'm curious to see if Miami does anything in the ACC this season. But they got a lot of work to do. I mean, Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, those are some good basketball teams. And Arkansas is simply not on the same level right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you look at the schedule for this, at least non-conference schedule for Arkansas, Lipscomb, Troy, Pacific, Little Rock, UMass, UTSA, Central Arkansas, NCA&T, Oakland. Nothing against those teams, but those are, mid-major, lower teams. And then when you see the big boys like Baylor and Illinois, you struggle. Miami, you were down. You needed a big comeback in the second half of that game to even get that win. And then, right after this non-conference schedule slate, you have to start SEC play on the road against currently number 3 Tennessee, and then back-to-back home games against currently ranked Ole Miss and Florida. It's going to get a lot tougher once conference slate starts. And we saw in that SEC-ACC challenge, the SEC is a dominant conference this year.
Yeah, it is, Brian. I mean, it's going to be tough. Big 12, adding Arizona and Arizona State. They lose Texas and Oklahoma, so I don't know where the balance and scales is there. But it's going to be rough. Texas, Arkansas has to play them twice. They go to Lexington. They open with Tennessee. I mean, it is just, ugh.
Yeah.
Arkansas is going to get a slap in the face as soon as they walk in the league, especially going up against Jonas Adu's former team, first game back. So we'll see, man. Someone tried to bet me that Arkansas would win the SEC in Cal year one. I was like, buddy, you're going to lose money. That's a dumb bet. I didn't let him bet me because he would have lost $100 like that. But it like you said, it's going to be a slobber knocker in the conference this year for who claims that title.
Yeah, you're a lot nicer than I am, Ty. I have buddies that will try to make bets with me like that, and if I see an opportunity like that, I'm taking their money and running. So at least you got me beat on that. Much nicer. Who do you think right now is the best team in the SEC basketball-wise?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I know Auburn lost at Duke, but Cameron Indoor is such a tough place to play.
And coming off of Maui, that Maui hangover, it's got some juice to it.
I mean, I know Alabama lost Whitesell, but they're getting that one guy back. I'm forgetting that the kid's name.
Youngblood.
I mean, yeah, Youngblood. I would take Sears and Nell. I mean, that duo is just so hard to defend. I know Broom and Cardwell and the rest of that. I mean, Auburn's got an outstanding team, great depth. Pearl does a great job in the jungle. So, I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd say Nate Oates and Alabama, but Tennessee and Auburn are breathing down Nate Oates' neck right now the way they're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's top to bottom SEC right now. I think I heard somebody talking about it, and I don't know now. I mean, Kim Palm switches every single day, but I think at least earlier this week, the lowest ranked team on KenPom in the SEC was like 77th in the country.
Wow.
I mean, it's and it was Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's had a really good start to the season, but I mean, for your worst team in your conference to be number 77, that's really, really strong. Right now they're 65. So if everybody is still in front of them, that would mean the worst ranked team, at least on KenPom, would be 66, which is incredible.
Easily. That's nuts.
Yeah, it just shows you how strong this conference is. Well, Ty, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do this again next week.
Fine, looking forward to it, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Ty. Ty Richardson from ESPN Arkansas, nice enough to join us every single week to talk the Arkansas Razorbacks. They've got UTSA tomorrow on the hoops side, and then Tuesday, a big game against Michigan at home. This Michigan team has been fun. A lot of people will remember Dusty May last year at Florida Atlantic. He goes up there, takes a couple of players, didn't take as many as I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people thought when he got that job at Michigan that he would take his entire roster, but only took a couple of guys. Vlad Golden, I think a lot of people remember him, the big man. He goes up there, and it really looks like that's one of the only players to follow him up to Michigan. But they've been really good this year, 7-1 on the season, so that should be a really fun matchup as well. But let's go ahead and get to another break, and when we come back, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
Shack in the Lowe's parking lot on Summer just keeps getting bigger and better. Bigger because now there's a second Elwood Shack at 4040 Parker Plus University of Memphis. And better because you can get breakfast every day at both Elwoods. There's the barbecue breakfast burrito, either beef brisket or pork shoulder, and pancake biscuits made fresh daily. Real house-made pancakes, apple and bacon, French toast, and more. And the new Elwoods even has a real coffee bar serving fresh roasted J. Brooks coffee. Elwood Shack, now in 2 locations and open every day for you.
You or someone you know or care about has dealt with a difficult divorce. When facing divorce, you need the attorneys at Rice Law. Nick and Larry Rice lead the firm with 3 generations and 7 decades of experience. Located in Memphis, serving the entire state of Tennessee and North Mississippi. Rice Law is who you need to call. Simple or difficult divorce, they know how to handle it. Call Rice Law at 901-526-6701, or for more information, visit them at aboutdivorce.com. That's aboutdivorce.com.
The 2025 Range Rover Sport sits right at the heart of the Land Rover lineup, offering a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility. Smaller and more agile than a full-size Range Rover, it's a great option for everyone who wants luxury and practicality. Every model comes with 8-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard. Whether you navigate city streets or tackle rough terrain, Range Rover Sport has you covered. Every drive is powerful and breathtaking. The 2025 Range Rover Sport is the epitome of sporty luxury. Test drive one in Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City.
Because it's Christmas, Family Leisure needs your help. Family Leisure has inventory that is up to move because you know it's Christmas. So don't wait. You can complete your ultimate game room with a new pool table, a new shuffleboard, new arcade games, or just get all of them for Christmas. Tons and tons of theater seating, overstock, or place to move. 'Tis the season for fire pits. And all fire pits at Family Leisure are now 20 to 30% off. You say you didn't get a spa this year? Let's say no more. Spas are in stock, ready for Christmas delivery, and up to $1,500 off. These are just a few of the deals happening right now for Christmas. Just come on by and check out their gigantic showroom. You never know what kind of deal you're going to find. Family Leisure. It's right at I-40 where family and fun come together for Christmas.
Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road in Memphis, right off I-40. Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 FM. Once again, Brett Roserly and Ryan Davis.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
All right, Landon, I have a couple big numbers to bring to the table today.
Does that break the rules?
No. You can have multiple big numbers. It's completely fine. My big number, really, I had one, and then I brought something up with Ty, and I double-checked it, and so I wanted to make it a second big number. So I'll start with that second big number. It is the number 69. We were talking with Ty about KenPom and the lowest rated team on KenPom from the SEC. I said it was Vanderbilt. Earlier this week, it was Vanderbilt. I think they were like 77th or 72nd, something around there in that range, which is still incredible that your lowest ranked team, because whatever I was listening to, and I have no idea now what I was listening to, but they were talking about the SEC and ACC challenge, and they were talking about how in the SEC, the lowest ranked team was in the 70s. And more than half of the ACC conference rated lower than that.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of this, the difference between the SEC and the ACC. So South Carolina, they're 69 on KenPom, which would be the lowest rated team in the SEC on KenPom. So that is my first big number. Quick one, get it out of the way really, really fast. But my second big number is actually the one I brought to the table. 2,288, that's my big number.
That's significantly bigger than your first one.
It's significantly bigger than my first big number. 2,288 yards. That is how many yards Ashton Jeanty has rushed for this season. That also goes to an average of 190.7 rushing yards per game.
It's phenomenal.
It's incredible. The only two FBS players to hit both of those marks in the same season, so 2,288 or more yards and averaging 190.7 yards per game, Marcus Allen in 1981 and Barry Sanders in 1988. Landon, do you know what both of those players have in common?
They're both running backs.
What else do they have in common? And do not say they both played in the NFL.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I already gave my obvious answer.
This is not
both were shortened seasons.
Both were Heisman Trophy winners.
That was going to be my third guess.
Well, it would have been a good one.
Well, you didn't give me time.
And that's big because right now, I would say Ashton Jeanty is not the favorite to win
That's true.
Heisman. I would say it's Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And I could look at the betting odds right now, and I think he's a significant favorite, at least over the weekend. During his game, he became a significant favorite for the Heisman Trophy. It would just be wild, and I think it's a conversation that people have had all year long about, okay, well, you've got this guy that is doing something we haven't seen in years in Ashton Jeanty, but then on the other side, what Travis Hunter is doing, playing both sides extremely well, it's hard not to give him the Heisman Trophy.
Well, I mean, if you've listened to John Harden's show at all, he is very opinionated that it should not be Travis Henry. I know John Harden opinionated. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Different.
Here.
I don't know.
Couldn't be him.
What is his argument for not Travis Hunter?
He believes that it would be better to have 110 than 2 5s. He believes that the production that Ashton Jeanty has done this year.
But what if it's like 2 8s or something like that?
Well, then that doesn't equal 10, and you're just not even listening anymore. but he is very strongly opinionated on it, and what that reminds me of is you talking about previous Heisman winners. You look at Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram's seasons in which they won the Heisman as running backs. Ashton Jeanty has already surpassed those yardage. He's surpassed the carries. He's surpassed the touchdowns. He's surpassed total yards. I mean, he's already there. And you're looking at Mark Ingram. You're looking at Derrick Henry. Both stellar running backs. I mean, you're even going back. Yes, he hasn't broken the single-season rushing record that was set by Barry Sanders. He hasn't done that yet. But still, to be regarded and to do what he's doing at the high level that he's doing it at, it's incredible, and I think it definitely merits conversation about the Heisman.
So I found a story that was published today.
Wonderful.
About Ashton Jeanty Heisman Trophy odds. And this says, because I tried to pull up multiple betting apps that I have, and none of them had Heisman Trophy odds for whatever reason. This says, as of Tuesday, Jeanty is the second betting favorite to win the 2024 Heisman Trophy per BetMGM, behind Travis Hunter, who is minus 10,000 to win the Heisman Trophy. Ashton Jeanty plus 2,500 to win the Heisman Trophy. So it feels like a stretch. Feels like it's going to be tough for Ashton Jeanty to win the Heisman Trophy. But
I mean, how much do you think the game tonight is going to affect that?
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
For Ashton Jeanty, and I don't know, I would have to look it up, and we don't have enough time to look it up right now. I don't know when Heisman votes are collected. I don't know when they have to turn those in. But you got to think, if the deadline hasn't passed, and I don't think it has, Ashton Jeanty playing in a conference championship game tonight, depending again because the Heisman Trophy ceremony is like the 13th or the
I think it's like 4 days away.
I was about to say he would have the first round of the playoffs, but he wouldn't have that. He would just have tonight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe if he just runs all over the place tonight and nobody catches him.
I think if he has a 200-plus yard game tonight with multiple TDs, I genuinely think that's going to put him in the front runner. At least it has to. I mean, if you have a game like that, at a game of this magnitude at this point in the season, for sure.
So it looks like Heisman, the deadline for the Heisman Trophy is Monday, December 9th, which is 3 days from now.
Yeah.
So they'll see tonight, and that's it. Now, the positive is you won't see Travis Hunter this weekend.
Right.
You only see Ashton Jeanty. And then the Heisman ceremony is next Saturday, December 14th.
Gotcha.
So we shall see, but I feel like Travis Hunter has this wrapped up. Your big number.
I do have a big number. Shifting gears a little bit, my big number is 60.
Okay.
60 is the amount of points that the Grizzlies bench scored in the game last night. The starters accumulated a total of 55 points. I think what that shows us is how well-rounded the Grizzlies can be when everybody's kind of running on the same cylinders. I mean, you went through the points earlier. I mean, you're talking about Santi Aldama at 15, Jake LaRavia, 12, Jake Huff, 11, Smart had 18, Scottie Pippen with 4. I mean, for the bench production to be as high as it was, and I mean, like I mentioned it earlier, the comparison on the Kings bench was a total of 15 points. I mean, that's incredible.
Yep.
If we keep up that energy, if we keep up that team camaraderie that we saw last night where everybody's pitching in and everybody's playing great, you're looking at a Grizzlies team that is near unstoppable.
Yeah, no, they looked really good last night. I think that bench is huge. I mean, we talked about it earlier this week with DeMichael Cole, and he said it, that this is one of the deepest teams in the league because of what they have coming off the bench. Well, before we get to a break, let me remind you about the commissary. It's getting close to dinner this weekend. Maybe you're looking for a place, want some barbecue, because at the end of the day, Memphis is known for its barbecue, and you can get the world-famous Memphis-style barbecue any night at the commissary. Locations in Germantown and Clarksville. Go in there, stop in lunch or dinner this weekend, or you can get it to go. Start your meal with an appetizer like the cheese plate, chicken wings, or my favorite, the barbecue nachos. For more than 40 years, the commissary has been a staple in this area, and a big reason is because of the quality of food they serve. My go-to, it's got to be the ribs, but it's hard to resist the barbecue shoulder. Get it chopped or pulled and get it by the plate or by the pound. It also comes in handy with the sandwich packs. Feed the whole group with a 6-pack, 8-pack, even a 12-pack. And don't forget about the desserts, like the delicious banana pudding, a brownie, or the lemon ice box pie. Check out the entire menu and catering options at commissarybbq.com. Whether it's a watch party for your favorite team or a tailgate, let the commissary cater your next event. And don't forget that they can help you out for the holidays. Holidays right around the corner. Let them do the cooking while you relax this holiday season. You can choose from their self-service catering options, or you can get your gatherings for your party. Get the smoked turkey or that honey smoked spiral sliced ham. I told you before Thanksgiving, I'll tell you again for Christmas, my family always gets the smoked turkey or the spiral sliced ham. They're both so good. We usually go back and forth. One year we'll get the turkey, the next we'll go with the ham. But keep this date in mind. Sunday, December 22nd at 6 p.m. That's the last day to place your Christmas orders so that you can pick that up for that Christmas event. And it's always just so good for the holidays. But give them a call or visit them online, 901-754-5540, and stop in at either location. In Germantown, open daily till 8 p.m., and in Collierville, open till 9 p.m. for that world-famous Memphis-style barbecue at the commissary. Well, let's get to another break, and when we come back, we're talking Tiger basketball. Jason Munns, he joins us next.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Vargas. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been the Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from a Mediterranean diet to steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family of families still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous.
Hi, this is Troy Five Ash, owner of Five Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Want to make this the most unforgettable Christmas? Genesis Time is selection of luxury watches and Genesis online commission experts
season. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253 DF Memphis. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Once again, Brett Northworthy and Brian Davis.
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you loved me, and that's a fact. And then you left me.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant Landon with you today. No Brett. He'll join us in the next segment to talk about our picks during our Friday football forecast. But we got to talk some Tiger basketball. Jason Munns from the Commercial Appeal. He joins us as always. He's presented by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. And before we talk to Jason Munns, Tigers back in action Sunday afternoon against Arkansas State. We actually have a 4-pack of tickets to give away courtesy of Sissy's Log Cabin. So if you want to go and cheer on the Memphis Tigers, the newly ranked Memphis Tiger basketball team, then give the Sissy's Log Cabin a call, 901-360-8255, 901-360-8255. Second caller, you get 4 tickets to Sunday afternoon's game against Arkansas State. So make sure you call in, and Landon will get you hooked up with those tickets. But now we talk with Jason Munns, the Tiger basketball beat writer. Jason, it's been a while since we last talked to you. I think the last time we did talk to you, it was the Tigers were getting ready to play San Francisco that night. So before everything in Maui, before the game earlier this week against La Tech. So let's start with that West Coast trip. I don't think anybody had 3-1. They certainly did not have 3-1 the way that it came. What surprised you, or what impressed you, I guess I should say, the most about what you saw from the Tigers in those 4 games?
That's a good question. I guess the three-point shooting would be first and foremost. Tyrese Hunter, sort of rising up, I guess, would be the way to say it. I mean, the San Francisco game, let's just call it what it is. It was a slog.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis was down by 9 at halftime or whatever it was. It felt like it could have been a lot bigger deficit. Memphis just did not play very well in the first half against San Francisco. But from halftime of that game through the end of the Michigan State game, those 5 halves of basketball plus the 5-minute overtime period in the UConn game was some of the best stuff.
Yeah.
We've seen out of a Memphis Tigers team in that long of a stretch in quite a while, probably since, I don't know, maybe, there were some good stretches last year, but it didn't feel quite as good, I don't think, as this particular stretch did. But no, just the fact that this is the number 1 team in the country in 3-point field goal percentage, and the fact that Tyrese Hunter he reminded everyone that he still, he still is the kind of guy who can put a team on his back.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what he did. He had 7 3-pointers in the win over UConn. He had 5 more the next day in the win over Michigan State. So just his performance in Maui especially, and then PJ Haggerty was no slouch either. Both of them made the All Maui Invitational team. And so, yeah, those were probably the biggest takeaways, their individual performances. But, obviously what matters most is the victories and what it did for Memphis in the grand scheme of, I guess just the overall outlook as we look out over the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the 3-point shooting, and Memphis leads the country back to leading the country in 3-point shooting percentage. But you look at the amount of threes that they've taken. I believe you wrote about this. When you look at the top 20 teams in 3-point shooting percentage that lead the country in 3-point shooting percentage, I believe there's only 3, maybe 4. I count them very quickly. I might be off, but it's either 3 or 4 teams in the top 20 that have attempted less 3-pointers than Memphis. They're not taking a ton of them, but when they need them, they're making them.
Yeah, and so what I wrote was what Penny talked about the other night after Memphis beat Louisiana Tech. They're only attempting like 18 3-pointers a game, and they're making 45.5% of those, which is really, really good. Obviously, it's number one in the country. But like, there's going to be one school of thought that says, well, if you're capable of making 45% of the 3-pointers you're taking, why don't you take more? If you take more, you're going to score more points. So there's that philosophy, but then there's also the philosophy that, well, why try to fix something that isn't broken? And then, so Penny, after the win over Louisiana Tech, was asked about the sort of lower volume. I mean, I think they're like 336th in the country or something in attempts, 3-point attempts per game. So they're among the most selective 3-point shooting teams there is in the country right now. And he said, in response to the question, that he would like to get more 3-pointers up, more attempts up. And he even said, like, if we could get to around 30, that would be great. And he kind of talked a little bit about how they can do that, what they have to do that. They need to be, a little bit more cognizant, a little more aware of that should be the first thought on their mind when they're out in transition, is finding the open guy, not necessarily just breaking toward the basket on every fast break.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can look at it. You can look at it one of two ways, and I don't think either side is wrong. It's like, yeah, if you're that good of a 3-point shooting team, well, you might as well put up some more then. But also on the flip side, why mess with a good thing when right now you're number one in the country and in percentage? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah. You mentioned what Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty have been doing to start the season. I've heard a lot of people talking about them. There's the question, are they the best backcourt in college basketball? But a lot of people kind of comparing them to duos in the past couple of years at Memphis, especially the Penny Hardaway era. And you hear a lot of, certainly with PJ Haggerty, comparisons to Kendrick Davis, certainly how they draw fouls, how they get buckets, really. And, so I've heard a lot of, kind of back to Kendrick and DeAndre, but I feel like this is almost more impressive of how they're doing it because it is two guards. It's not a guard and a big man like that duo was. What have you seen from them? Because it feels like both of them are guys that are capable of being the number one, the go-to guy for any team, but they're able to work off each other and play off each other and really both get theirs while still sharing the rock and not playing selfish basketball.
Yeah, to me it is more impressive because they do sort of overlap. You know what I mean? Like they both do a lot of the same thing, especially on offense. And so because there is that overlap, there's less room for both guys to get off, and yet they're both still doing it. To me though, like what makes it even more impressive is that there is a third guy who is also, in the backcourt. He's also in the backcourt mix. Yep. Colby Rogers, who he's also shooting 45% from three. He is also scoring in double digits every single night. I don't know, man. I don't know about best 1-2 punch, best backcourt 1-2 punch in the country. Like there's a lot of, that's a deep pool.
Oh yeah.
So that's tough, but like I would be hard pressed to believe that there is a better three-headed monster right now so far this season in terms of backcourt trios than Tyrese Hunter, PJ Haggerty, and Colby Rogers. Like to me, what makes that group so dynamic is that not only, as we just mentioned, do you have the 1-2 punch that, maybe they do overlap a little bit, but they still are getting theirs. But then Colby Rogers, his skill set, his game it's really kind of the perfect complement to these other two guys. He can create his own shot. He can score, be on the arc. He can score in the mid-range. He can get to the basket. He does, he can facilitate. So, you know, I think that, like, I feel comfortable saying that trio is top 5 in the country, or has been through 8 games.
Yeah, they've been really good. You were in Maui for those 3 games for the Tigers, and obviously the first one was the biggest, beating Dan Hurley and UConn, the 2-time defending national champions. What was it like being in that small gym while Dan Hurley kind of lost his mind throughout that game?
It was fun as all get out. Like, it was, I mean, you know, like, I can understand where it might really irk some other people, but, you know, being an impartial bystander, like, it was some of the most fun stuff. It was just like, so I had like all the press rows right there on the opposite side of the court as where the team benches are and stuff, and like, I just found myself, you know, every 10 minutes or so, it felt like grabbing the person next to me, like grabbing their shoulder and being like, are you seeing this? Like, is this actually happening right now? Is it actually happening again? You know, and it was so fun. It was a lot of fun. I get that, like, it was nerve-wracking for the fans and everything, but it was a really, really, especially on day one, that early in the morning. It was the first game of the tournament. You know, at that point, UConn was still UConn. UConn was still the 2-time defending champion who was undefeated. They had not lost 3 games in 3 days, which a whole other story. You know, they bounced back, obviously, beating Baylor the other night. But it was so much fun to be in that room. As you said, very, very cozy, friendly confines. And, you know, I mean, it was, and then to be in the post-game press conference afterwards, where it was just like, did he really just say that? And did he really just say that? And did he really just say that? It was like, I almost felt like how I felt when I was sitting front row for Penny's stop asking me stupid effing questions thing, where I was just like, I felt like I was like, that was almost like an out of body experience. This wasn't quite that, but it was at least in the same universe. But it was really cool. Memphis got the win. That was, I mean, that's the other thing, is like, you had Danny Hurley's antics and all that stuff, but oh, by the way, there was an absolutely fantastic game that went all the way to overtime and came down to the last second. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing. I think that was the most impressive thing about the Maui experience for the Tigers, was the fact, I know Greg Gaston, who does the morning show here, I think he got into it with a couple people on Twitter because they wanted to kind of push back on the idea. But if we're all being honest, when Memphis gets forced into overtime with UConn, the defending national champions, currently at the time number 2 in the country, they storm all the way back late.
Well, all the momentum's on their side.
Nobody was thinking Memphis was going to win that game. Like you said, all the momentum on their side. For Memphis to still win that game was extremely impressive.
Big statement. Yeah. Big statement. And more so than the victory, but how they got the victory. Huge statement for Memphis, because, yes, you just, like, nobody would have blamed, I don't think anybody would have blamed Memphis or held it against them for the rest of the season if they had run out of steam. I don't think anybody would have, you know, if that shot that Solo Ball hit, the 3-pointer that Solo Ball hit with 1.2 seconds left on the clock to tie it and send it to overtime, if that took the wind right out of Memphis's sails and doomed them, and they go on to lose, don't think anybody faults Memphis in the least. But not only did they come back from that, they were down by 4 points, I think on 2 different occasions, with less than 3 minutes to go in overtime. And, of course, the technical foul and the over the back and all that stuff, like, you know, but, like, they weathered that storm. Like Memphis weathered that storm against, and listen, we can debate whether UConn is still UConn of the past 2 seasons. I don't think they are.
Yeah.
But what I do think is UConn is still a top 25 team. Will finish the year as a top 25 team. They just beat Baylor, number 15 Baylor, without Alex Caravan, okay, who is arguably their best player. So, like, the people don't need to be sleeping on UConn just because they lost 3 games to, what was it, Memphis, I know Colorado, but then Dayton's going to be a very, very good team this year. Don't be sleeping on, don't write UConn off just yet. And Memphis beat that team on the first day of the tournament when everybody's legs were fresh. Memphis beat that team, and I think that win's going to hold up very, very well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You were at Penny Hardaway's radio show earlier this week when he made the comments. I'll read the quote for anybody who didn't see it. You wrote about it as well. Quote, "I just basically had to blame everything on me and just say, hey, I have to get control of me. It was some dark days just for me personally, just to check myself and say, hey, it's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to get this done because you know you can get it done." I've heard a lot of people, I think we've talked about this as well, kind of talk about this change in approach that we've seen since probably midway through the offseason. It felt like that 2 days where he makes the staff changes, the letter comes out, all those big headlines. It feels like since then we've seen kind of a different approach, and then we hear that from Penny Hardaway. What did you make of those comments Monday night from Penny?
Just incredibly refreshing. It's just nice to see and hear that stuff after so many years of and such a long time where it didn't sound like that, where Penny wasn't, there were. Yeah, I'm not saying there weren't times where, throughout his career so far, his tenure so far at Memphis, where he didn't, there were times where he said, this one's on me, or he said, I've got to get better, or, blame me, those sorts of things. But it never felt the way a lot of the comments that he's made in the last couple of months have felt. There seems to have been at some point along the way in the last couple of months a fundamental shift in how Penny approaches his job, and I think I believe firmly that it is going to be for the betterment of not only him but also the program in the city. And I think new athletic director Ed Scott and new deputy athletic director Tim Duncan, who's also the sport administrator for basketball, who also was Penny Hardaway's teammate at Memphis back in the 90s, deserve a lot of credit for this. I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of this stuff, this shift, as I mentioned before, I don't think it's any coincidence that it came about right around the time that Ed Scott got on campus, took office. So, but whatever the reason, that doesn't exactly matter as much as the fact that it is taking place. It's very, very refreshing. And I think what makes it feel so much better, and makes it feel so good is that it's believable. Like he comes across as very, very genuine, and you can see not only is he saying the right things, you can see where he's like putting those words into action, and he's practicing what he's preaching. And listen, they're Memphis is what are they, 7-1, and they're the top 15 in the country, top 16 in the country, and things are looking up. And he's right. It was time for him to do something different, and he's doing it, and it's working.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Jason, real quick. Arkansas State next opponent on Sunday. Arkansas State team that I think will be a good team. Brian Hodgson, I think, is a really good coach. Early in the season, only a 9-point loss to Alabama, but over these last 3 games, back-to-back losses against Rice and Hofstra, and then last night only a 2-point win over Jackson State. What do we see Sunday against Arkansas State?
They're a pretty good defensive. They defend the 3-point shot pretty well, percentage-wise. They're ranked pretty high in terms of 3-point field goal percentage defense. They are playing Rice and Hofstra and Jackson State and some other teams that I don't think are very good 3-point shooting teams. But as you mentioned, they did play Alabama close in Tuscaloosa. So it's tough. I don't know. I watched that whole game last night against Jackson State, and it wasn't a situation where the final score was closer than the game. The game was close. It was competitive. There were lead changes. There were, Arkansas State struggled to win at home against an 0-9 Jackson State team. So I don't really know what to expect from that side of the fence, from Arkansas State's side of the fence. From Memphis' side of the fence, I think after the way they kind of, I don't want to say struggled against Louisiana Tech, but struggled at times, we'll say, against Louisiana Tech at home, I think that might have, you hope if you're a Memphis fan, that struck a chord, and they're going to come out on Sunday intent to not have to fight so hard and leave it hanging in the balance so late. So I think that they're going to put their foot on the gas earlier and for longer, and I think they'll be fine on Sunday. But I do think that they better not take Arkansas State lightly. They better not be looking ahead to next week to Clemson.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens on Sunday. Should be a fun one. Jason, as always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Jason. Jason Munge joining us from the Commercial Appeal, as always. He's brought to you by Jim's Place Grill in Collierville. Well, we need to get to a break. Friday Football Forecast on the other side. Brett will be with us for some picks in the next segment. Before we do that, let me remind you about Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City, they've been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984. Their talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models, like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, the 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. It's a perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender, available in multiple models to fit your needs. The Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. That's 877-259-6169. Visit them online, jaguarbluffcity.com. But please go out there and test drive these beautiful vehicles. You won't be disappointed. 6335 Wheel Cove, right there just off of Quince. You can't miss it at Bluff City Jaguar. Well, let's get to another break, and when we come back, we'll make our picks. First National Bank and Trust Friday Football Forecast. That's next.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Because it's Christmas, Family Leisure needs your help. Family Leisure has inventory they have to move because you know it's Christmas. So don't wait. You can complete your ultimate game room with a new pool table, a new shuffleboard, new arcade games, or just get all of them for Christmas. Tons and tons tons of theater seating, overstock, one place to move. 'Tis the season for fire pits. And all fire pits at Family Leisure are now 20 to 30% off. You say you didn't get a spa this year? Let's say no more. Spas are in stock, ready for Christmas delivery, and up to $1,500 off. These are just a few of the deals happening right now for Christmas. Just come on by and check out their gigantic showroom. You never know what kind of deal you're going to find. Family Leisure. Hit the road at I-40 where family and fun come together for Christmas.
Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road in Memphis, right off I-40.
You or someone you know or care about has dealt with a difficult divorce. When facing divorce, you need the attorneys at Rice Law. Nick and Larry Rice lead the firm with 3 generations and 7 decades of experience. Located in Memphis, serving the entire state of Tennessee and North Mississippi. Rice Law is who you need to call. Simple or difficult divorce, they know how to handle it. Call Rice Law at 901-526-6701, or for more information, visit them at aboutdivorce.com. That's aboutdivorce.com.
Step up your wings game at East Coast Wings and Grill. With 60 wing flavors and 7 heat indexes, do you have what it takes to turn the heat of your wings up to insanity? East Coast Wings and Grill is family friendly with a large variety menu to satisfy the whole bunch. Sign up today for their loyalty program and taste the rewards. For every dollar you spend, you collect a point. Earn 100 points and receive a $5 reward. Next to Lowe's on Highway 64 in Marlin, come try America's best wings at East Coast Wings and Grill.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom-made solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Felix Cavalieri, founding member of the Rascals, will be performing with Sixwire, this year's Puzzle Liberty Bowl, and you'll want to be there too. We'll hear all the iconic hits at the President's Gala on December 26th in Lima, and at halftime, 66 Puzzle Liberty Bowl on December 27th. Get your tickets today by calling the AutoZone Liberty Bowl at 795-7700. The Tennessee Highway Safety Office reminds you that fans don't let fans drive drunk. Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. We have seen a couple of wrecks out here. It is heavy now, right on schedule on 40 East from Sycamore View Road all the way out past Germantown Parkway. You got all that traffic pushing back into Fayette County. To the south has been a little bit slow. We had that earlier crash down in DeSoto County on 55, northbound just north of 269. It's busy going the other direction down through there at the moment as you travel through DeSoto County towards Tate County. Shop now and save during this holiday season at Weimer's Jewelry, conveniently located 7525 Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Friday football forecast from First National Bank and Trust, a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. Real estate isn't something you purchase or develop or desire. It's something you appreciate, respect, and know. With real estate, there's no gray area. You either know it or you don't. First National Bank and Trust, a proud division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. They've known it since their beginning in 1886. Clients depend on First National Bank because they know real estate. Brooks Winchester, Bill Samish, and many more can assist you in your acquisition of that hunting land, farmland, a construction project. Let First National Bank and Trust make your dreams a reality. 775 Ridge Lake Boulevard, Suite 140 in Memphis, 901-498-5763, or the office in Collierville, or online at fnbtmemphis.com. For commercial real estate, residential construction, or recreational and agriculture financing, let First National Bank and Trust help you. They're a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas, where I have had an account, been a friend, and been a customer my entire life. and growing so much in West Tennessee, and you'll see and hear about it from us in 2025. And whether it's in West Tennessee or back to the roots in Eastern Arkansas, customer confidence is the cornerstone of First National Bank and Trust, a proud division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas. Mostly college today. And we got some starting in about 30 minutes. One game starting about 30 minutes, and then two more starting in the 7 o'clock hour tonight. All championship games will have only NFL locks and shocks today, so just two NFL picks. So we get in to the college games. As I said, it starts in just a little bit, 6 o'clock on CBS Sportsnet. Conference USA Championship game, Jacksonville State minus 3.5 over Western Kentucky. That's on CBS Sportsnet. I think I get that, don't I, Brian?
You do get that, yes.
Okay,
you
good.
Absolutely do.
I like Rich Waltz. Rich Waltz, Robert Turbin, and Amanda Guerra, the announced team for that game on CBS Sportsnet tonight. And in that game, it's a rematch just from last week. We could call this kind of the Britton Banowski Bowl, couldn't we? Old CUSA. Yes. And 3.5 Jacksonville State over Western Kentucky. Jacksonville State playing at home. Rich Rod versus Tyson Helton. Second year in FBS for Jacksonville State. These teams played last week with Western Kentucky winning a home game 19-17. Western Kentucky leads 5-2 all time. Connor.
I have Jacksonville State covering.
Jacksonville State covering. Darian has Jacksonville State. Brian.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Jacksonville State. I put Jacksonville State on my no-bet list after the first week of the season when I don't even remember who they played, but they just got drilled. And they've turned things around in conference play. They've looked really good. I know they lost in this game last week, but I think they bounced back and win this game tonight.
Brian, you make a strong case for me to make it a group lock, but not so fast, my friend. I'm taking Western Kentucky to win the game straight up tonight. Mountain West Championship game at 7 Central. Boise State minus 4.5 over UNLV. That game is on Fox on the blue turf in frigid Boise. Again, Boise minus 4.5 over Barry Lamar, Dave Odom's running Rebs of UNLV. Third straight year for Boise in the Mountain West Championship game. 10 straight wins for Boise since losing September 7th narrowly at Oregon in the regular season. Also in the regular season in Vegas, Boise State won over UNLV 29-24 on Friday night, October 25th. Boise leads all time 10-3 in this game. The announced team tonight for that game is Jason Benetti, Brock Heward, and Allison Williams.
What a great group.
It is a great group, and Allison Williams is a sensational person. She's the only one on the three I really know. Was around Brock Heward a little bit. You listen to him a lot out in
Brock
Seattle.
Heward, I do. Yeah, he's great.
And really, really good crew. Darian takes Boise. Brian.
Yeah, I don't really understand this one. You know, these two teams met earlier in the season in Las Vegas. The line closed Boise State minus 3.5, and now in Boise, they're only a 4.5 point favorite tonight. I just looked it up. The weather tonight, when this game starts, will be 30 degrees. It will get down to 28 degrees throughout this game. This is going to be cold. This is going to be uncomfortable for UNLV. And Boise State, I just do not think they are going to trip or stumble with this opportunity in front of them. This is really the first playoff game of the season because you win and you're in, you lose, and you go to a bowl game. So, you know, I think it's going to be a big game. I think Boise has done too much this season to let this game be what keeps them out of the playoffs. I'm going to take Boise State to cover this 4.5.
Bryant, you made such a strong case in that CUSA game. You convinced me. I'm going with Boise. Yes. So it's up to Connor for the group lock.
Nope, I have UNLV, and I have UNLV winning tonight.
Whoa! Look at that, straight up.
Right.
Running Rebs in Vegas.
Hey.
7 o'clock tonight also on ABC. How about that on a Friday night in early December on 2 of the 4 big networks? We have college football on ABC, the AAC championship game. I know everybody is heartbroken the Tigers aren't in it, but it's at Michie Stadium, legendary Michie Stadium at West Point. 10-1 Army. They still have that game next week. Minus 5.5 over 9-3 Tulane. Bryson Daly, the Army quarterback, 25 touchdowns rushing. That's second only to Ashton Genty's 28. Ashton Genty is going to be in New York next week for the Heisman Trophy when Bryson Daly is playing the Army-Navy game. Tulane leads all-time 13-9-1. The ABC announced crew tonight: Dave Pash, Dusty Dvorak, and Taylor McGregor. Connor.
I have Army plus 5.5.
Darian takes Army. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm going to take Army as well. I mean, being a home game for Army, I think will be huge. And I just still can't get out of my mind what I saw from Tulane last week, where Memphis really dominated them. And I think Army's kind of triple option, what they run, could give Tulane fits. So I think this is certainly a really close game. I think Army wins this game. Give me Army.
Great take on what you saw, what you saw last week, and they couldn't handle the Memphis physicality. John Summerall is not going to get out physicality. I don't think that's a word.
Well,
two games in a row. Give me John Summerall and lay the 5.5 in that game in New York at Frigid Mikey Stadium. Then the games start tomorrow morning bright and early, 11 o'clock on ABC, Big 12 championship game from Jerry's World in Arlington. Arizona State minus 2.5 over Iowa State. The winner of this game's, it means either Arizona State or Iowa State in the college football playoff.
What a world.
What a world. And when you think about all the teams that can get in, so just really how exclusionary is college football?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, seriously, a lot of teams have a chance to get in that normally never would have. So, first meeting ever between these two, Cyclones and Sun Devils, 7-win improvement for Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Sun Devils. First 10-win season for Iowa State in its 133-year history. Announced team for that one is Joe Tessitore, screaming Joe Tessitore, Jesse Palm, and Katie George. Give me Iowa State. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Iowa State in this one. I think Arizona State's been a fantastic story this year. Picked 7th preseason and end up in the conference championship. But I just think the physicality for Iowa State is going to give them the edge. I'll take Iowa State.
Connor.
I have Arizona State.
Darian's with you. So 2 with Arizona State, 2 with Iowa State. 11 o'clock, the MAC championship game at Ford Field in Motown. Tickets available. We talked about that yesterday. $5 get in price. Miami of Ohio minus 2.5 over OHIO, but no state, just Ohio. Right. Miami O leads all time 56-42-2. This will be their 101st meeting. They met October 19th, 30-20. Miami O won that game. They play for the Battle of the Bricks.
I love it.
Okay.
Great.
Battle of the Bricks. First time ever, though, for them in all those meetings to meet in a championship game. Give me Ohio. Connor.
Ohio as well.
That's what Darian takes.
Oh, good Lord.
No, I'm sorry. Darian takes Miami, Ohio. I'm sorry.
I don't love my pick in this game, but I'm going to take Ohio. You mentioned it. These two teams met earlier this season, and it was Miami, Ohio, who got the 30-20 win. And Miami, Ohio has been so good recently in conference play. I mean, you look at some of these results, 46-7 over Central Michigan, 27-21 over Ball State, 34-7 over Kent, 29 over Northern Illinois, 28-12 over Bowling Green. With all of that said, I like this Ohio football team. I'll take the Bobcats.
Anish Shroff, Andre Ware, and Paul Carcaterra, the ESPN announced team. 3 o'clock Central Time, downtown Atlanta, ABC, the SEC championship game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Texas minus 2.5 over Georgia. We know what happened in Austin on October 19th. 3-game win streak for Georgia right now since losing in Oxford. 5-game win streak for Texas since dropping that game to Georgia at DKR. 14 million watched in October. How many will watch tomorrow afternoon? Texas leads all-time 4-2. If Georgia won this one, they met again, and Georgia wins in one single year, they could take a series from 4-1 to 4-4.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is wild. 2.5. Give me Georgia. Darian takes Georgia. Bryant.
I'm going to take Georgia in this. I just can't get that visual of both quarterbacks for Texas, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, sitting on the bench in that first game, just looking like they saw a ghost because of that defense. And so I'm just going to take Georgia in this one. They've got the home field advantage and somewhat of a home field advantage being in their state. So I'll take Georgia. No Bevo. I think that's a shame, and I think they'll take something away from Texas.
I really think as great as Greg Sankey's been to Texas in the first year in SEC, they should let Bevo be in his box.
They should.
Might get a little untidy in there, and might get a little crowded. That photo of Arch and Quinn Ewers, it looked like if you had the caption above their head, Arch was saying, "I never saw this at Newman," and Quinn Ewers was saying, "I've never seen this at Ohio State or Texas."
No, it was crazy.
So I have Georgia, you have Georgia, Darian has Georgia. Come on, Connor, group lock time, right?
I actually have Texas because of Bevo.
Oh,
let the Longhorns play.
Okay,
taking the slide. You're using the disrespect card, huh?
I mean, let them play. Let's go.
No shocker, that announced team: Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Holly Rowe, and Laura Rutledge. And it's on ESPN Radio, it's on Westwood Radio, and it's on SEC Radio Network.
Wow, I love it.
Where are they putting all the broadcasters at MBS?
Geez, they got to find somewhere for them.
6:30 tomorrow night on ESPN, the Sun Belt Championship game, Louisiana. And they very much want to be called that. Don't call them ULL. Don't call them Southwest Louisiana. I won't. Louisiana -5.5 over Marshall. 10-2 Raging Cajuns versus 9-3 Thundering Herd. Cajun Field in frigid Lafayette tomorrow night. Marshall leads 2-0 all time. Louisiana favored 5.5 over the Thundering Herd. Give me Louisiana. Bryant.
Yeah, I'm going to take Louisiana as well. Charles Huff, the head coach for Marshall, his name has been all over the place with the Southern Miss job. It looks like they have a deal in place and maybe just waiting for this conference championship game to be over to announce it. We know how that kind of can get in the head of the team, of the players. So I will take Louisiana to get a big win here.
Darian takes Marshall. Connor.
I have Marshall.
You have 2-2 on that one. The ESPN announced crew is Roy Philpott, Sam Icho, and Taylor Davis. 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis on CBS at Lucas Oil Stadium. Penn State leads 3-1 all-time over Oregon. 7th all-time championship game for Oregon, but first in the Big Ten in their first year in the Big Ten. 2nd Big Ten championship game appearance all-time for Penn State. Oregon -3.5 over Penn State. Darian takes Oregon. I take Oregon. Connor.
Oregon.
Right.
Give
Group
me
lock
Penn
time.
State. No way, Jose. Those uniforms are going to look great. And here's the thing. I picked Georgia earlier. I picked Penn State now. No way Penn State is going to let Oregon walk into the Big Ten first year in their conference and take home the conference trophy. I mean, have some pride in your conference. Penn State gets the win.
There's a lot of those cases. In every one of these games, you can have firsties.
Yeah. I mean,
walk away with it.
Got to have some pride in your conference.
Of course, the CBS announced team, still a great announced team. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Jenny Dale, and I miss them. I miss them badly. I miss the 2:30 CBS game. 7 o'clock tomorrow night on ABC, the ACC championship game in frigid downtown Charlotte. SMU -4.5 over Clemson. First meeting ever between these two. Clemson 8-1 all-time in ACC championship games, and it's the 109th different opponent for Clemson in their storied football history. Dabo versus Rhett Lashley in this one, and it is a 2.5-point spread. SMU favored. I take Clemson. Bryant.
Give me SMU. I said it yesterday. I will wave the flag for SMU. There is no way Rhett Lashley is going to let there be any discussion about should or should not SMU be in the field. They're going to go out there. They're going to get the win, and they'll be in the playoffs.
Darian takes SMU. Connor.
I have SMU to shock the ACC.
So I prevented the group lock. We didn't have a single group lock in college. This year in college football, when we have group locks, we're 5-8. That's 4 of us. That's not too bad. .384. It's not too good either.
Well,
that's all the college picks. So into the NFL. Only locks and shocks in the NFL. My lock, Tampa Bay, -6.5 over Las Vegas. And that's Darian's lock. Darian's shock. The Chargers plus the 4.5 against Kansas City. My NFL shock, I take the Giants plus 4.5 over New Orleans. Connor.
My lock is Bills -3.5 at Los Angeles Rams. And then my shock is Atlanta plus 5.5 at Minnesota.
Okay.
Bryant.
My lock is going to be the Chiefs -4.5 over
the
you
Chargers.
Go
direct against Darian.
So me and Darian are going against each other in this one. Then my shock, give me the team with the new coach. You fire coach midseason, your team plays well that next game. Give me Chicago plus 3.5 against the injury-riddled San Francisco 49ers. I'll take Chicago straight up to win that game.
And next week we'll just have the Army-Navy game from college. We'll have a lot more NFL next week, and we go with First National Bank Friday football forecast all the way through the Super Bowl. It was First National Bank and Trust, a division of First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas, bringing you Friday football forecast. For real estate, commercial, whether it's ag or hunting or recreational, contact them at fnbt.com or call them at 498-5763. Stable, secure, solid, reliable, and consistent through all these years in Eastern Arkansas and now in Western Tennessee.
Well, let's get to a break, and when we return, we'll wrap up today's show with Crunch Time.
Simple, smooth, and every sip as easy as the last. Tito's handmade vodka tastes just as good with tap water as it does your favorite mix. Back in the day, Tito distilled, hand-bottled, taste-tested, sent out to a few friends, then taste-tested again to give you the finest juice around. No frills, no flavors, no fancy labels. Just the good stuff. Just Tito's. For recipes, videos, and more, visit Tito'sVodka.com. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. 80 proof. Crafted and savored responsibly.
Make some magical Christmas with help from Genesis Diamonds. Step into a world of luxury media. At Genesis, we have what many love, from simple diamond stud earrings to amazing no-kind designer bracelets. And you can't miss our best air selection of luxury pre-owned watches. For the entire December, Genesis is making everything affordable with 5 years, 0-interest financing. Just $1,000 by 60. And get your baby or showcases with your exclusive diamond rings. This gives you exquisite craftsmanship and lasting value. All our exclusive designers are showcasing their latest creations, and our penetration experts will help you pick out your gift that sure brings tears to your eyes on Christmas morning. So come see us at Genesis for the most romantic and memorable gift of the season. Get holiday store hours, directions, and finance details at GenesisDiamonds.com. Genesis Diamonds, luxury pre-owned Lexus. Popular markets extended. System for details.
Let me guess, you're going to recommend that everyone get their holiday meal from Central Barbecue.
No, although it's a great idea, get everybody some fantastic Central Barbecue and not have to do any of the work, but that is not what this spot is about.
It's not?
No, this is about another way Central Barbecue can save you time and trouble.
Ah, Central Barbecue gift cards.
That's right. You don't have to fight the holiday gift shoppers when you can just go online and order up a handful of Central Barbecue gift cards.
No one has ever turned up their nose at getting the best barbecue in Memphis.
In the world.
In the world for free.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rollers, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. 901-673-1267.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye! Hello, Haskell.
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Well, Landon, what I learned today is that 3 Memphis area teams traveled up to Chattanooga or are traveling up to Chattanooga to compete in state championship games. 1 game has already been played and 1 golden ball will return to the city. Congratulations to Mace for winning their state championship earlier today. We talked about it. There was still about 4 minutes left when I said Mace's going to win this thing. They'd wrapped
you
up.
did it, bro.
They scored. I was worried I might jinx them, but no jinx.
Instead, you were the first one to congratulate
That's
them.
right. I'm going to congratulate them again. The job that Cedric Miller has done over there at Mace, he's done a fantastic job, and then to get a state championship today is really, really good. Again, a reminder, tomorrow morning Melrose will play for the state championship. I believe they're in the 11 o'clock game, and then tomorrow night, I believe at 6 o'clock, Houston will play against Oakland, a rematch of last year's state championship game. So good luck to both of those teams. And how about this? How about we three teams go up there, and all three teams bring back state champion trophies?
That'd be beautiful.
Be great.
That'd be a beautiful thing. Well, something I learned today is that cornerback for the Tennessee Titans, Chidobe Awuzie, is going to be returning from injury.
That's good.
And is expected to play this
Huge.
Sunday against the Jags. We haven't seen him a lot this year, but I know his production with the Bengals, so I'm excited to have him back in our secondary and looking forward to that game this Sunday.
Yeah, that will definitely be a big-time addition to that Titans team. And Titans right now favored this weekend against the Jaguars.
Tighten up, baby.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens. What I could have done without today is the news coming out of Oklahoma State. It was going to be what I could have done without, or maybe what I learned earlier when I saw it, but it's turned into what I could have done without. On3 reported earlier, I guess Pete Thamel was the first to report it, Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy are in a standoff, according to Pete Thamel. The Cowboys want him to take a restructured contract that would include a pay cut. Quote, and here's the big quote, they have discussed firing him for cause if he doesn't agree to a new contract. Well, just in the last 30 minutes or so, Dylan Buckingham, who covers the Oklahoma State Cowboys for one of the local news channels, KFOR in Oklahoma, he tweeted out saying, "For what it's worth, I'm told Mike Gundy wants more time to ponder the situation. It's unclear if the board are willing to give him that time." So something to keep an eye on over the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
What happens in Stillwater with Mike Gundy, a coach that's been super, super consistent and has had really good teams at Oklahoma State. Will he be the coach there next year? I guess we'll wait and see. The other thing, real quickly, that I wanted to mention as well, Grizzlies PR released the status report for tomorrow's game against the Celtics. Marcus Smart listed as questionable with a right ankle sprain. Marcus Smart's been really good since he returned from his illness a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see if he's able to play against his former team tomorrow night.
Yeah, man, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. What I could have done without, we learned earlier in the show, was the refs, quote-unquote, owning their mistake of calling that terrible foul against Jaw, which then shouldn't have led to the technical, which then shouldn't have led to him getting ejected. I mean, stick to your guns, make the call, stand by it, even if a lot of people are disagreeing with you. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, it was a bad call. Ultimately led to another technical foul for him, but I guess we'll see what he can do tomorrow against the Boston Celtics. It's going to be a really good weekend of just sports in general. We've got all the conference championship games. We've got NBA. We've got college basketball. A lot of stuff going on. We did get this text earlier that we haven't had enough time to talk about. I wanted to bring it up before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Texter says, I just want to get this in before the game. Tulane wins tonight, and Summerall announces he is leaving on Sunday. So this texter thinks it's going to be quick. Look, Summerall is going to be a big name for a lot of jobs. I think the question is, I think Brett brought this up, does Summerall jump at a big-time, a Power 5, Power 4 coaching job this year, or does he wait and maybe next year gets, an SEC job that comes open and comes calling? I guess a lot to see there. A lot of great games this weekend, those games. How about this? We also got a text saying, since Landon's back on, they want your thoughts on Hawaii. We'll have to give him thoughts.
I got a lot of thoughts about Hawaii.
A lot of thoughts on
Not
Hawaii.
enough in the short time we have left.
That's right.
But I got a lot.
Real quick, Ole Miss Lindenwood will have coverage tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. with the pregame. Sunday, we'll have our NFL triple header. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday.